President Trump falsely claims that a count of legally cast ballots would show him winning the presidential election. This as the president leads by just over 3,000 votes here in our state. The presidential race remains on a razor's edge as election workers in key states continue to count ballots. Mr. Biden currently has 253 electoral votes, while President Trump has 213. And Senator David Perdue and Jon Ossoff brace for a potential Senate seat runoff as votes continue to be counted. Once again, we have team coverage on the election results tonight. We begin with Brendan Keefe and the latest county-by-county breakdown.
That's right, Jeff. We just got some fresh numbers in from Forsyth County, and it's really interesting in the way it's affecting, essentially what Joe Biden has to do if he wants to catch up with President Trump. Right now, this is it. It's not just 49-49. It's 49.42 to 49.35. Literally 0.0007 of the 4.85 million votes cast for president in Georgia so far counted. And that's what separates these two candidates. It's really extraordinary. Let's write that down again. 3, 4, 8, 6. That is the number of votes currently separating the two candidates. Now, here's what's interesting. In every county that's come back so far, Joe Biden has been outperforming the numbers from the previously counted vote. How is that possible? Most of these are these mail-in or absentee ballots, which we know from the requests skewed heavily Democratic. So a lot of Republicans showed up in person, where Democrats requested those absentee and mail-in ballots. So let's get to the Forsyth County numbers for you real quick, because that's where things get really interesting, and this follows that trend. Now look, this says 66-32. Right before we got these numbers in, it was actually 67-33, and here's what we have right now coming in from Forsyth County. Donald Trump picked up 1,311 votes. Joe Biden picked up 1,460 votes. So Joe Biden actually netted votes out of Forsyth County, which had been one of the reddest counties in Georgia. It remains still deeply red, but it's important to point out that it has been diversifying, especially the southern half of Forsyth County. That has been diversifying quite a bit because it is a bedroom community off Georgia 400, and of course you have Lake Lanier right here. So that's what's going on right there. In terms of the changes and the demographic changes in the county, it's really, really interesting to see exactly what's happening. So let's punch back out here, just look at the general numbers. In fact, let's just jump over really quick to the, I want to show you the map of the electoral votes, because if you take Georgia on the map right now, what the state's called 264, if, of course, Joe Biden wins Georgia, he would have 280 votes. This is still a very big if. No matter what, this is going into a recount and an audit. So we don't know who the next president of the United States is tonight. We certainly don't know who's won Georgia yet.
Brendan, I know you're doing numbers and all tonight, but I'm going to ask you for some speculation. How long until you think this is complete?
That's a really good question, because look, I'm glad you asked this question, because look, we have Pennsylvania we have to worry about coming back. We've got Arizona and Nevada. Nevada's saying they're going to pick up the pace on all of this. Some of these states are still, not declared by some of the networks. So the question about Georgia, look, we have those Gwinnett votes. There's 4,800 of them coming out of Gwinnett. We're not going to know those. If we go back to the original screen real quick, we're not going to know those Gwinnett votes, which now are more than the spread between the two candidates. There's 4,800 votes from Gwinnett. We're not going to have those before Saturday. And then, of course, there's the opportunity for votes to be challenged, and the audit and the recanvass and all of that. It could be a while. Somebody may call the state, but in terms of an official certified election, we're looking at next week at the earliest.
Yeah, so you think we could roll into the weekend and we get through Saturday and Sunday and we still don't have a sense of this?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Thanks, Brendan. We're going to keep track of the latest results as the votes come in. If you want them sent straight to your phone, why not? Text the word RESULT to the number on your screen. You can also download the 11 Alive News app to get an alert as soon as the race is called in Georgia, whenever that may be. Tonight, we're fact-checking President Trump after he addressed the nation about an hour ago, claiming he was being cheated out of the election, but we must stress that he did not provide any specific evidence to support his claims. President Trump also talked about the vote count in Georgia.
Likewise in Georgia, I won by a lot, with a lead of over getting close to 300,000 votes on election night in Georgia. And by the way, got whittled down. The election apparatus in Georgia is run by Democrats. We also had margins of 300,000.
So we can verify that his last statement is false because Georgia's Secretary of State the office is run by Republican Brad Raffensperger. Earlier today, we asked his voter system implementation manager directly about public concerns of rigging the election through absentee ballots.
I think if anyone's going to try to rig a system, they might have seen something a little bit less close than this. That's one. Two, we have in this process 159 dedicated elections directors and their staff who are working to get this right. They're working diligently every single day. We know how many requests came in for absentee ballots. We know how many ballots were received. So that is an outward bound, so nobody could suddenly show up with 100,000 extra ballots somewhere. In this state in particular, we take security very seriously. The entire name of our campaign for launching this new system was Secure Your Vote. And it's really important. And I understand that in other states there are questions. I can only speak for this state, and I can speak for the people of Secretary Raffensperger's staff, the elections directors around the state. They're going to get it right. We're going to have an audit to prove they got it right. We went for a risk limiting audit, which is a little more difficult to do than traditional audit. We're going to have a recount for president more than likely, and people will see those outcomes stay essentially the same. The recount we had in Savannah really proved that the scanned ballots were the same as when a human being read and counted those ballots. So I feel like in this state, we've taken the steps at every level to secure that vote and make sure the integrity of the ballot is protected.
So we are working to verify other claims the president made about Georgia during his news conference. We'll have that coming up for you on Up Late at 11. That's over on 11 Alive, of course. Meanwhile, Joe Biden made remarks in Wilmington, Delaware, a few hours before the president on the status of the vote as the counting continues in the states.
In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be.
Mr. Biden went on to ensure that the counts would be completed and that America will know the results very soon. Fulton County officials say election workers have completed processing absentee by mail ballots. Natisha Lance is live at the Mitchell Street Bridge in downtown Atlanta. She has the very latest for us. Hey, Natisha.
Well, Jeff, hey, Jeff. Well, I'll tell you this. I just heard you ask Brendan, when could all this be over? I can't answer that question for the entire country, but what I can tell you is what you just said, that absentee ballots have been counted for Fulton County at least, so they are done with that. They finished around just a little bit before 5 this evening, and really that goes to the credit of those adjudication volunteers who were out there into the graveyard shift. Some of them didn't leave until 6 o'clock in the morning and then came back again at 10 o'clock in the morning to finish up the job. And that job, as I mentioned, adjudicating those ballots. Those are the ballots that had some issues, that the computer saw some issues with. It requires a representative from both sides, a Democrat and a Republican, to look at those ballots to see what the issue is and see if they can agree on that. We were able to speak to a Democratic adjudicator, and she told us what she saw as the common problem with some of those ballots.
Most of the ballots that were reviewed were because in the jungle election, you were supposed to vote for one of the 21 candidates, and people voted for 2, 3, and 4 candidates.
So she said about 50% of the issues that they saw with the ballots were because of that jungle election, and that we now know Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Raphael Warnock will go into a runoff for that in January. So that was the biggest issue. And Lee, who we spoke to, by the way, didn't leave until 1 o'clock in the morning and then came back again. So here's where we stand now. We're not done completely yet with Fulton County. What we have left over are provisional ballots. There's about 3,000 of those. But then we also have those military ballots that have until 5 o'clock tomorrow to come in, and then also any cured ballots. So if somebody had an issue or they did a provisional ballot and they forgot their ID or something like that, they have until 5 o'clock tomorrow to get that done. So they'll go through the process again starting tomorrow morning, scanning and adjudicating, and then maybe tomorrow we will have a final count for Fulton County.
All
Jeff?
right, so all of these people, Natisha, are volunteers. I mean, nobody's getting rich doing this, and it is painstaking how long it takes. How do they feel about this? How did they feel that their time spent went?
You know, I was there last night. I didn't leave until about 2 o'clock yesterday in the morning. And there's a lot of starting and stopping because they have to wait for the work to be done at State Farm Arena. Once those ballots are scanned, then they come over and they're able to look at them to adjudicate them. That takes about 15 minutes for each batch that comes over, and then they're waiting. But I did speak to a woman who didn't talk to us on camera, but she said this is not her first time doing this. And she feels like this system and this process has run smoother than any other process. She said there's less paper for them to go through, and they're able to blow up the ballots bigger on the screen. So she thinks, you know, the process ran really smoothly, and they are really confident with the system that we currently have.
Natisha, thanks for your time always. Terrific reporting. We appreciate it. Right now, Gwinnett County is adjudicating 3,200 batches of ballots. That was as of about 3 hours ago. Election officials say that they had gone through about 1,800 of them. And each of those batches, there could be up to 25 ballots. 11 Alive's Shanu Her is outside the Gwinnett County Board of Elections tonight for his report.
A few panels consisting of 3 people each are going through and adjudicating multiple batches of mail absentee ballots here in Gwinnett County that were affected by a software glitch. The adjudication process happens when a ballot is incorrectly marked. The panel reviews it to try to determine the voter's intent or if the ballot can be counted. Gwinnett County elections officials say they know that not all ballots coming in the batches are affected, so the number could be as low as 3,200 ballots impacted. A supervisor tells 11 Alive the results from ballots that aren't affected in the batches have already been reported to the state. She says the panels are working as quick as they can, but accuracy is important, and the process takes time.
After the adjudication of the ballots are complete, then those will be pushed over to the results files. Right now, as they're adjudicating, they're being held in the separate file.
On top of this, the county also reviewed 4,400 ballots from Election Day and 450 ballots received from an advanced in-person voting location that needed to be rescanned because of a data card error. Election officials are expecting this could take up to 3 days before results are out.
Georgia's elections already a topic of several lawsuits, how things are playing out in court. Plus a breakdown with the 11 Alive political analysts on the latest in the presidential race.
The 11 Alive storm trackers are watching the clouds on the increase, and that's what made for a beautiful sunset. Did you see it? It was gorgeous. This was our tower cam at sunset in Gwinnett. So coming up, how many clouds are we going to see moving in as we head into the weekend, and what that will mean for our forecast.
President Trump leading Joe Biden by a thin margin in Georgia, and it keeps shrinking. Joining me right now to talk about the latest developments, Emory political science professor Dr. Andra Gillespie and the Republican strategist Mike Hassinger. Dr. Gillespie, let's begin with President Trump about an hour ago was speaking and made some very strong undocumented charges about the election.
Yes, I mean, it wasn't very different from the comments that he made at 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday, right after the election. We know that the Trump campaign is filing lawsuits in various cities. We know that some of them have been thrown out, but I expect that he's going to keep up this litigation strategy until somebody finally tells him that there are no more options for him.
Mike, he's going to continue, as Dr. Gillespie said, with this. What is the hope here? To try to mobilize his base, to try to get people to protest? I mean, what's the end game of this?
The end game appears to be a Hail Mary throw that somehow some ballots might be rejected before they're counted, and he might carry a state that he wouldn't carry, and he could miraculously thread the needle and pick the lock on the Electoral College again. Other than that, that's the only logical conclusion I can come up with. Other than that, he's just trying to sow chaos because he loves chaos, and he's proven that since he first ran and as president.
Dr. Gillespie, what is the end game now for Joe Biden? Does he hold on to Georgia, or is it Pennsylvania, or sitting watching both? That's about all he can do right now, correct?
Well, I mean, the strategy is to sit and wait and see how things turn out. Joe Biden actually has the luxury of having multiple paths to 270 electoral college votes because he's got more than 250 already. So if, let's say, Arizona or Nevada doesn't play out, one of them and Georgia would be more than enough to hit 270 electoral college votes. And if he does win Pennsylvania, he doesn't need actually any of the other outstanding states in order to win the presidency. So it is President Trump who really only has one path to get to 270 votes, and that's by winning multiple states.
Do both of you worry about what a transition looks like? I mean, the American government is a big thing, a difficult thing. Even in the best of times, when you have a transition between different parties, it's a very difficult thing. This looks like something that we have never seen before, at least not in our lifetime. Mike?
I beg to differ, Jeff. We saw a strange and odd transition in 2016, and it's still not quite clear what was going on during that time. It was, Trump's ambassador to Russia was talking to the Russian ambassador, which under normal circumstances you would think, that's part of the transition. But that led to the Russia collusion, that led to impeachment, that led to a whole lot of chaos that defined Donald Trump's first term. This one, I don't know, and we won't know until January 21. And look, the odds are very slim that Donald Trump wins re-election, but it's still entirely possible, at least in theory, that he might be reelected.
Dr. Gillespie, on transition, give me your thoughts, if you would.
Well, I mean, I think the difference between 2016 and today was that when the election was over, we had no doubt that President Obama was going to vacate the office. And so I think the question is how is President Trump going to react, and what is his bluster going to be? And in particular, if he says anything that hints of sounding anti-democratic or that he would overstay his welcome, who would stand up to him within his administration in Congress to tell him we have to abide by the rule of law, and the Constitution says that you have to go at noon on January 20th. So I think that's what we're all waiting to see happen. Hopefully, President Trump's bark is worse than his bite. And, if he loses, we, hope that he loses graciously and exits when he is supposed to.
Dr. Gillespie, Mike Hassinger, thank you. We will talk to you a little bit later in the evening.
Thanks very much.
And a reminder, for the very latest, 11alive.com has the update on all the numbers. Let's check in now with Samantha Moore.
Well, we're watching the clouds move in this evening as we head towards the weekend. So that does mean we'll see increased cloud cover, but I think we're still going to stay mostly dry. Some of this moisture is trying to work its way in around high pressure over the Mid-Atlantic. That's directing in that clockwise flow off of the warmer waters of the Gulf Stream there. So we are seeing just a few showers here in southeast Georgia. I don't think we're going to see much materialize here, but we'll definitely see an increase in the cloud cover like we're seeing right now, but that should make make for some spectacular sunsets as we head into Friday night and the weekend. So 71 was our high, 47 our low today. We should be around 67 and 48. So just a little on the warm side for our high temperature today, but I didn't hear one person complaining about that. And then hour by hour as we head through the day on our Friday, we're going to see those temperatures warm up into the low 70s, even some mid 70s possible on the south side. So we'll be watching for those warmer temperatures and humidity rising as well. It won't be summertime humid, but it definitely will be a little more sticky, especially when we get into next week. So as far as our temps as we head into the weekend, starting out pretty mild, upper 50s for lows on our Saturday. No freezing temperatures this weekend. And then as we head into the afternoon, we'll end up seeing those temperatures get into the low 70s once again. So that'll be the pattern for us as we get into this weekend. And we'll see just a slight chance of showers as we head into Sunday and Monday, as some of the moisture from Ada may work its way into our forecast. So this is where tropical depression Ada was. You know, it was a Cat 4 as it approached Honduras here, and now that's where it is at the moment, right over eastern Honduras, expected to move to the northeast over Cuba this weekend, then slowly meander around here. This is never a good sign as far as forecast accuracy. It's really hard to really get a good idea of where this track is going to go when it meanders like this. Slow moving over the Gulf by the beginning of next week. Some of the remnant moisture will get pulled in here, but still it's a little too far out to accurately predict exactly where Ada is going to be going. So we'll be keeping our eye on it very closely as we head in through the next few days and next week. So right now we think it will impact our forecast around Veterans Day. So we'll see the bulk of the moisture moving in. At this point, we're not expecting a Zeta windstorm situation, so that's good news, but we could see some thunderstorms with some strong gusty winds. So enjoy the moment. Friday, Saturday look great. A few clouds, temperatures ranging from the upper 50s to the low 70s on Saturday, even a little warmer for lows on Sunday, and increased clouds, 20% chance of rain Sunday into Monday, 30% chance Tuesday. And as that remnant moisture from Ada starts to work its way into our weather pattern, a 50% chance of showers and storms on Veterans Day.
fight for Democrats to win the Senate majority could stretch into 2021. The race to fill former Senator Johnny Isakson's seat is going to a runoff with the Reverend Raphael Warnock and Senator Kelly Loeffler in January. And the second state Senate race between Republican incumbent Senator David Perdue and the challenger Jon Ossoff could be next. Hope Ford has the very latest for us.
There is usually a huge drop-off in the number of participants. So the real challenge for these candidates who are going to go into runoffs is, can you get your people to come back and vote for you again?
UGA political science professor Charles Bullock says runoffs struggle to get voters to come out for a second time, especially this one, which will be less than 2 weeks after Christmas. Bullock says one area you won't see campaigns struggling: attack ads.
They become just vicious. They may have been hard-hitting rounds before that, but when you get to the runoff, everything is on the table.
Perdue and Ossoff already have a history of heated exchanges, so Bullock says expect more of that. Bullock also says you'll see more money pouring into the campaign.
National political parties will be spending money, but then also so will conservative groups and liberal groups.
So far, at least one conservative PAC is already promising to channel $4 million to get Senator Perdue and Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler reelected. While it doesn't always happen, political experts say Senate incumbents tend to win runoff elections because of name recognition. But Professor Bullock believes since 2 seats are up for grabs in this high-profile race, all 4 candidates in both Senate races will have to do a lot of work to win. The presidential race in Georgia continues to tighten. How absentee ballots are shrinking President Trump's lead. Absentee ballot counts are shrinking President Trump's lead in Georgia. Once again, Brendan Keefe is ubiquitous. He is omnipresent when it comes to the numbers. He is a seeker a man who has all the numbers, who dreams of the numbers and has them in front of us.
Well, that's quite a build-up, Jeff, but this election, we can't even speak in hyperbole because this is something, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't think Georgia has seen an election like this, certainly since the 19th century. Here we are, as you can see, tied 49-49 right now, and you can see pretty much the first several digits are all the same. So let's break it down a little tighter than that, because it's now down into the hundredths of a percent. We're talking about 49.42 versus 49.35. Another way of putting this is that the current distance between these two candidates represents 0.0007 of all votes counted, right? So 7/100ths of 1%. It's 3,486 right now, the distance between the two candidates. Now the question is, can Joe Biden make this up? Because every time we get an update, that obviously not only adds to his count because he's been taking a more significant share, but it also reduces the number of available votes left, meaning those left to be counted that were cast on Election Day or were absentee or mail-in ballots. So let's take a look at where the numbers are coming from. We got a big number from Forsyth County. We're still expecting about 2,000 votes out of Forsyth County tonight. But even though Donald Trump is doing better than Joe Biden by a significant margin, I mean, a factor of 2, actually more votes went to Biden than to Donald Trump in the 2,771 votes we got in earlier, which is just fascinating. So where are the votes left? Right now, we're really going to be waiting on Gwinnett, and we probably won't get that answer tonight because there are 4,800 votes still outstanding in Gwinnett, and most of those were part of a software scanning issue where they have to go back and rerun all of those. So those 4,800 votes we probably won't get tonight. If you think about it right now, those 4,800 votes are actually greater than the number of votes between these two candidates. Last thing I want to leave you with is there are 8,800 military and overseas ballots that are due by close of business tomorrow if they were postmarked by Election Day, and those may or may not be returned in time to count, and they will be very significant, could be very significant, and determine the race.
Brendan, thank you. We'll check in with you a little bit later. Appreciate the insight, and certainly it gives us an excellent overview as to where we stand right now. If you want to see the latest results sent straight to your phone, you can text the word RESULT to the number on your screen. And you can also download the 11 Alive News app to get an alert as soon as the race is called in Georgia. No matter who prevails in the presidential race in Georgia, there is a strong likelihood of a recount. Recounts are strictly controlled by state law, but the presidential race seems to fall within the legal guidelines. In the governor's race 2 years ago, the Democrat Stacey Abrams was within 55,000 votes of beating Brian Kemp, but Governor Kemp won, and there was no recount, and that is because the race was ineligible for a recount. Governor Kemp won by a thin margin of about 1.4%, but not enough to trigger a recount. State law says in order to be eligible for a recount, the margin between the first and second place finisher has to be 1/2 of 1%. President Trump's margin over Joe Biden is just 0.07. That makes the presidential race the only statewide or legislative or congressional race eligible for a recount. No recount is automatic. A campaign has to request it within 2 business days of the vote being certified. Certification likely is still days away. Every election is important, and every election is in its own way a part of history. But this one in Georgia has been one for the record books. There hasn't been anything quite like it. Here's Matt Pearl.
As of now, neither President Trump nor former Vice President Biden will clear 50% of the Georgia vote. The last time that happened, according to the American Presidency Project, was 1996, when Bob Dole won the state with 47%. Before that, it was Bill Clinton in 92 with 43%. Those races had a prominent third-party candidate in Ross Perot. They were also decided by fewer than 5% of the vote. The only 2 times that's happened in Georgia since the Civil War. You'd have to go pre-Civil War to find a race in Georgia decided by this small a number of votes. In 1848, Georgians voted Zachary Taylor over Lewis Cass by less than 3,000 votes. That's an election where only 92,000 even voted, as opposed to this year's roughly 5 million. As for margin of victory, right now Biden and Trump are separated by less than 0.5 percentage point. The last time that happened, it hasn't. This will likely be the closest vote for president in Georgia's history. It's so close, we even got a viewer email asking, given all the talk of runoffs, would there be one here if neither candidate gets to 50%? Well, the answer is no. In a presidential election, the leading vote-getter gets all the electoral votes. However, that's not the case in Georgia's 2 Senate races. We'll see definitely 1, likely 2 runoffs for 2 pivotal U.S. Senate seats. If you're a voter, here are the dates you need to know. November 18th, that's a week from next Wednesday. It's when voters can request an absentee ballot for the Senate runoff candidates. December 7th, that's the deadline to register to vote. And a week later, December 14th, is when early voting begins. Election Day is Tuesday, January 5th, 2 months from today. It will mark the conclusion of a most unique election in the state of Georgia.
The president sent out a tweet regarding surprise ballots in some states. Jason Puckett breaks down the ballot counting process and he verifies.
Wednesday morning, the president sent out this tweet saying last night he was leading in many key states. Then the leads, quote, started to magically disappear as surprise ballot dumps were counted. Here's the president in the early morning hours on Wednesday.
We're winning Michigan, but I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin.
Now, since that speech, Wisconsin and Michigan have both counted more votes, and the president and former vice president have been jockeying for the lead. The president says these changes are due to surprise ballots, which are, quote, very strange. But there's nothing surprising or strange going on right now. We even verified this yesterday, before the polls closed. Wisconsin and Michigan are both states where ballot counting didn't start until Election Day. That means the record-breaking number of mail-in absentee ballots couldn't be counted before Tuesday. The states knew this was going to take time. Here's the Michigan Secretary of State earlier this week.
We are on track to see double the number of absentee ballots, just over 3 million, submitted before 8 p.m. tomorrow. Based on basic math, we should expect it would take no more than 80 hours to count those ballots, which would take us through Friday.
And Wisconsin published a series of videos in October explaining that
accurate election results take time. The numbers you hear on election night aren't actually official.
Bottom line, the claim that these numbers magically changed due to surprising ballots is false. At this point, there's no evidence these are anything other than legitimately cast ballots being counted like normal. Folks, if you see other election claims out there you want us to check out, send us an email.
For your 11 Alive Storm Trackers, watching a few clouds move in, but it should be a great morning to get out with your dog before work. Tomorrow will be in the low 50s, few clouds around. We'll see some breaks in the clouds during the day with some sunshine peeking out. Temperatures getting in the upper 60s by lunchtime and in the low 70s. What a great time to get out and take a walk in. We should be around the low 70s at dinner time. So coming up, how these increased clouds will impact the rest of your weekend.
Voters are concerned about the process of verifying election results. Cheryl Preheim had a chance to speak with 11 Alive legal analyst Paige Pate about that and more.
Joining us now, 11 Alive legal analyst Paige Tate. Paige, we've had a lot of people contacting us about the process of counting and certifying results, but this is actually a very normal part of every single election. We heard today from the Secretary of State's office, they've been trying to let people know ahead of time for months now that this is exactly what was going to play out.
That's exactly right. It would be extraordinary for us to actually have a decision and a final vote count on election day. What's unusual this year, of course, is the number of absentee ballots. In most cases, that's not going to determine the outcome of election. And in most cases, it won't take that long to process those ballots because you just don't have as many of them as we do this year. So the process now is a counting process. That's what state law says. You vote on Tuesday, this week you count, and then next week you certify. So the fact that we don't have a final vote tally today or maybe even tomorrow is not a violation of the law, and it's not that unusual.
And worth reinforcing that this is what happens in every election. However, there's been record turnout in this election and a record number of absentee ballots because of the pandemic. But the process this election is exactly like it has been in every other United States election.
That's exactly correct. However, I do see a potential problem because it looks like, at least with the presidential election, we're getting close to runoff territory. And normally that's not a big deal. That's going to take a lot of time when you have machine voting and you have scannable ballots. But again, we have so many absentee mail-in ballots this year that I think doing a recount of those ballots may put us into an additional week or so. So we just have to see how that plays out. But one thing I would like to say, with all of the attention on Georgia election officials, there has been no evidence of fraud in this election. And I've just got to compliment the folks who are working so hard to run this election for what they have done so far.
Yeah, for the amount of work and the amount of scrutiny, it's been unprecedented in so many different ways. Always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
President Trump tweeting a lot while states continue to count ballots, expressing concern about the process. Twitter even flagging a few of his tweets, labeling them as misleading. We asked Jason Puckett with our Verify team to get to the bottom of it.
Wednesday morning, the president sent out this tweet saying last night he was leading in many key states. Then the leads, quote, started to magically disappear as surprise ballot dumps were counted. Here's the president in the early morning hours on Wednesday.
We're winning Michigan, but I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin.
Now, since that speech, Wisconsin and Michigan have both counted more votes. The president says these changes are due to surprise ballots, which are, quote, very strange. But there's nothing surprising or strange going on right now. We even verified this yesterday, before the polls closed. Wisconsin and Michigan are both states where ballot counting didn't start until Election Day. That means the record-breaking number of mail-in absentee ballots couldn't be counted before Tuesday. The states knew this was going to take time. Here's the Michigan Secretary of State earlier this week.
We are on track to see double the number of absentee ballots, just over 3 million, submitted before 8 p.m. tomorrow. Based on basic math, we should expect it would take no more than 80 hours to count those ballots, which would take us through Friday.
And Wisconsin published a series of videos in October explaining that
accurate election results take time. The numbers you hear on election night aren't actually official.
Bottom line, the claim that these numbers magically changed due to surprising ballots is false. At this point, there's no evidence these are anything other than legitimately cast ballots being counted like normal. Folks, if you see other election claims out there you want us to check out, send us an email.
Well, we are watching those temperatures rise. We're not going to see incredible heat, but we're definitely going to be above average as we head into this weekend. And the humidity levels going up as well. We've already started to see that with this easterly flow trying to bring a few showers into southeast Georgia. I think we're going to remain mostly dry, at least until we get to Sunday, and then we just have a 20% chance in the forecast. But what really has our attention is Eta, Tropical Depression Eta, down here in Honduras. And it is a slow-moving system. Right now, it is moving to the north-northwest at 8 miles per hour, but it's expected to take a northerly turn as we head towards the weekend, impacting Cuba with some very heavy rain as a tropical storm once we get into the weekend, and then making another curve here into the Gulf most likely. But South Florida will likely be impacted by Eta, and really South Florida has not seen much impact from hurricanes or tropical storms this season. They've been very lucky, but this time their luck may run out. So we'll have to watch this carefully. Some of these remnants could move in here. In fact, we do think we'll get some of the remnant moisture in here. Over the weekend, though, they'll be seeing the storms over Cuba and then in through Miami as we head into late Sunday and early Monday. And then it moves over the Gulf, where it just moves also slowly. The Euro shows it strengthening more. You see these tight lines. That means the storm is strengthening. The GFS, the American model, showing a little further north and not quite as strong. So we're going to have to watch this carefully over the weekend and into next week as to how much it will impact our forecast. But we do think we'll get a little moisture in here as we head into next week that could fuel some showers and storms. Another thing, those temperatures are nice and warm and downright balmy as we head into this weekend. So a nice warm fall weekend as we head into the next few days. So as far as your overnight goes, we'll see those clouds on the increase as we head into the morning hours. Quite a few clouds around to start tomorrow, and then we'll see some breaks in the cloud cover during the day. So a 10 on your wasometer on that scale of 1 to 11, with 11 being a perfect day. Low 50s to the low 70s on Friday, and maybe a smidgen warmer on our Saturday. So Friday night football is looking great. We're going to see those temperatures in the mid 60s to start out the games, and then around 60 as things start to wrap up. Look at that sunset. The sun is setting at 5:41 now. So yes, thank goodness for stadium lights. Otherwise, we'd be sitting in the dark. So as far as what we're expecting to see as we head into the next few days, this is the trend, that easterly flow showing that moisture working its way in here. And you may have noticed a few flashes of green on Sunday here across the Atlanta area. So we just have a 20% chance on Sunday. I think our weekend's going to be mostly dry. So increasing clouds as we head into the next couple of days, humidity on the rise, and mostly dry until next week. And then things start to really change here as we head into the middle of next week, and we end up seeing that chance for rain going up as some of that remnant moisture from Eta moves in. So 10s on your wasometer for Friday and Saturday, 8s on our Sunday and Monday, 20% chance of rain with a good chance of rain, 50% chance on Veterans Day.
Still to come, protests popping up outside ballot counting locations in Georgia and other battleground states. How communities across the country are addressing some pockets of unrest. There are 16,105 votes left to count in the state. That is the latest word from Brendan Keefe about 45 seconds ago. Meanwhile, protests are breaking out in Georgia and other states as election results continue to pour in. NBC's Chris Pallone following some of these tensions around the country tonight.
As the nation waits for a winner, Americans are hitting the streets. Supporters of Democrat Joe Biden turning out to demand that officials nationwide count every vote. Supporters of President Trump are out in force as well, protesting the continuation of vote counting in some states, echoing the president's unsupported claim that the election is being stolen from him. In several states, election officials are taking steps like setting up barriers in Arizona to prevent the repeat of tense clashes seen Wednesday as pro-Trump demonstrators harassed election workers and tried to enter places where ballots are being counted.
The Trump campaign has already filed several lawsuits over a range of election issues, looking to stop the count in some areas and asking for better access to the counting process for Republican observers in others.
Whether you voted for Donald Trump or you voted for Joe Biden, everybody has a right to witness what's transpiring here.
In Pennsylvania, every vote is going to count.
For some, an agonizing wait with control of the White House and the direction of the country at stake.
Meanwhile, the voter protection tour has been continuing as well. They have offered that every vote must indeed be counted, and this group has offered free rides to the polls for Georgia voters ahead of the election. And now they want to draw attention to ensure that all of those ballots are counted, particularly in Fulton County, with a visible presence outside some metro ballot processing locations. In the face of rumors and wrong information trying to shake voters' confidence, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger wants to reassure voters. He says that Georgia's election is safe and there are security measures taken to protect ballots. All absentee ballot drop boxes were monitored by security cameras. On election night, the drop boxes were locked at 7 p.m. to prevent illegal voting or fraud. State monitors were in the room as the votes were counted in the most populous county, Fulton. And the public can observe counting in any county whatsoever to maintain transparency. The state will also conduct an audit before votes are certified to reinforce confidence that the vote count is indeed accurate. Mail-in ballots rejected for some Georgia voters, but you still have a chance to ensure that your ballot counts. We'll take you through the process coming up next.
In this contested presidential race, it's looking like a recount is going to happen. But how will it work, and what is the potential outcome? Let's connect the dots. As the counting of ballots continues in several states, there is already talk of a recount in Wisconsin. President Trump's campaign announced it once won, but there are rules in place for who gets to put in the request. In Wisconsin, it must be the candidate who is behind, and they have to be within 1 percentage point of the leader. We have had a recount in Wisconsin recently. In 2016, Green Party candidate Jill Stein requested a recount. They later changed the rules to say only the candidate losing by 1% or less could make that request. In that case, President Trump had won the state by about 23,000 votes, so the recount didn't make much of a difference. Hillary Clinton had already conceded the race by the time it was happening, and in the end, only 131 votes were added to Trump's total. While election experts are expecting similar results this time around, the state's governor warned there is always a possibility of a major reporting error, telling both sides just wait for the results to be official.
11 Alive News Primetime on the ATL starts now.
Tonight on Primetime, fact-checking the president as he claims he's being election, including right here in Georgia. Plus, Donald Trump Jr. in Atlanta, his message to voters as his father's lead continues to shrink in our state. Plus, Georgia went from a unique position of having 2 Senate races on the ballot to both of those Senate races possibly in a runoff. And we're going to have the very latest between Purdue and Ossoff. And we're continuing team coverage on the election results tonight. We're going to begin with Brendan Keefe, who's tracking the President Trump's narrow lead here in Georgia. And Brendan, it seems like it's shrinking by the hour.
It is shrinking by the hour, Ron, and we have those numbers, actually some fresh numbers, just into 11 Alive. First, I just want to show you. This is obviously the United States, but all eyes right now are on Georgia. And why are they on Georgia? Because right now, Joe Biden, with the called states, the states called by the Associated Press, are 264 electoral votes out of the 270 needed. If you give him Georgia, if he's able to win that, he's at 280. Now, that's a very big if. Why? Because right now, this is how close the race is. Now, it was a lot farther than this. On election night, we were looking at a 10-point spread or greater. Right now, we're looking at 7/100ths of a percentage point. So we're talking about 3,486 votes separating the two candidates at this point. And it really comes down to how many votes are left. Are there enough votes out there yet to be counted that could still make up the difference for Joe Biden and get him to either tie or get somewhere close? Looks like we have some new numbers. Alec McQuaid, Star Sports producer here, says Clayton County numbers are just in. So let's pull up Clayton County because we're going to want to see that. This is going to change the numbers here. They haven't hit the big board yet, but let's pull up Clayton County, and I can show you here, obviously, Joe Biden has done very well in Clayton County. And so here's the latest result. Let me draw it on the screen for you so you can see it. These aren't a lot of new votes, but they are new votes coming in from Clayton County. Joe Biden pulled in, let's actually write it up here right next to his name, 1,154 newly counted votes, and Donald Trump pulled in 165 votes there. Now, here's the final sort of analysis as we go back to the big board. Let's bring it back to the big board here. When you look at the final analysis, by our count, Joe Biden has to take in at least 60.8% of the remaining votes that are still outstanding. How many votes are still outstanding? Let's write that one on the board. Right now, according to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office, Republican, he says there are 16,105 outstanding votes, and Joe Biden has to close it down so that these 3,486, that's just to get in tie with Donald Trump. Looks like we also have new numbers. Okay, this is really big news. So this, let's actually erase the whole board. It's going to take me just 1 second. Give me just a second. Okay, this is the new lead right now. Donald Trump is leading 2,497 is the new lead. Donald Trump is leading over Joe Biden by 2,497 votes. And just a quick count of those. Let's do this really quick in my head. We still have 14,000, a little more than 14,000 votes outstanding. And it's now down to 2,497. 97. Just extraordinary. We're going to keep an eye on this, and Ron, if we get some new numbers in, because we're getting them in by the second, we'll break right back in and give you the latest numbers.
Yeah, let's do that. Now, I know, let's talk about Gwinnett County if we can.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Brendan.
Let's do that.
So when it comes to Gwinnett County, we're not expecting to have all those numbers in by this weekend. That's what their officials are saying.
Yeah.
Would that make an impact one way or the other between the president and also Joe Biden?
You know, that's a great question, Ron, because actually Gwinnett County has 4,800 votes still to be counted. The reason is there was a software scanning error. They apparently corrected it. They had to rerun the ballots. These were in batches of ballots, and some of them have to be adjudicated. But basically, yes, 4,800 votes. And if you look at the difference, 2,497, yes, the 4,800 votes and potentially 8,800 military and overseas ballots could actually change the results of this election.
Okay, Brendan, we're going to stay on top of that. And of course, if you get some new numbers, just let the producer know. We'll break in and put it up on the screen for everyone there. Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks.
And we're going to keep track of the latest results as those votes come in. And if you want them sent straight to your phone, just text the word result to the number on your screen. There it is. You can also download it on the 11 Alive News app to get an alert as soon as the race is called in Georgia. Well, tonight we are fact-checking President Trump after he addressed the nation earlier tonight, claiming that he was being cheated out of this election. But we must stress that he did not provide any specific evidence to support that. Mr. Trump also talked about the vote count here in Georgia.
Likewise in Georgia, I won by a lot, with a lead of over getting close to 300,000 votes on election night in Georgia. And by the way, got whittled down. The election apparatus in Georgia is run by Democrats. We also had margins of 300,000.
All right, so right now we can verify this. The last statement he made is false because Georgia's Secretary of State's office is run by a Republican, Brad Raffensperger. Earlier today, we asked his voter system implementation manager directly about public concerns of rigging the election through absentee ballots. Listen.
I think if anyone's going to try to rig a system, they might have seen something a little bit less close than this. That's one. Two, we have in this process 159 dedicated elections directors and their staff who are working to get this right. They're working diligently every single day. We know how many requests came in for absentee ballots. We know how many ballots were received. So that is an outward bound, so nobody could suddenly show up with 100,000 extra ballots somewhere. In this state, in particular, we take security very seriously. The entire name of our campaign for launching this new system was Secure Your Vote, and it's really important. And I understand that in other states there are questions. I can only speak for this state, and I can speak for the people of Secretary Raffensperger's staff, the elections directors around the state. They're going to get it right. We're going to have an audit to prove they got it right. We went for risk limiting audit, which is a little more difficult to do than traditional audit. We're going to have a recount for president more than likely, and people will see those outcomes stay essentially the same. The recount we had in Savannah really proved that the scanned ballots were the same as when a human being read and counted those ballots. So I feel like in this state, we've taken the steps at every level to secure that vote and make sure the integrity of the ballot is protected.
So at this point, we're working to verify other claims the president made about Georgia during his news conference this evening. We're going to have a lot more on that on Up Late at 11 o'clock over on our sister station, 11 Alive. Now, Joe Biden also making remarks in Delaware about an hour before the president on the status of the vote counting remaining in the states. Listen.
In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted, and that's what we're going to see going through now, and that's how it should be.
Mr. Biden went on to ensure the counts would be completed and that America will know the results very soon. All right, let's turn our attention to Fulton County. Officials say election workers have completed processing absentee by mail ballots. Natasha Lance is live at Mitchell Street Bridge in downtown Atlanta, and you've been working on this since last night in Fulton County.
Oh yeah, Ron, working late into the night last night about this. I was listening to you and Brendan talk about those numbers and where places where they're still counting, but Fulton County is a place where counting those numbers is done, at least for absentee ballots. There's still some other ballots that are out there. I'll tell you about that in just a second. But this really goes to the credit of those adjudication volunteers who worked the graveyard shift into the night last night, some not leaving until 6 o'clock in the morning and then coming back at 10 o'clock in the morning to get the job done. And that job, as I mentioned, the adjudication process, which requires a representative for both sides, a Republican and a Democrat, to look at those ballots that may have some issues with them and try to come to an agreement about them before they can go through the final process to get counted. We spoke to one Democratic adjudicator, and she told us she found something to be a common theme among some of those problem ballots. Take a listen to what she said.
Most of the ballots that were reviewed were because in the jungle election, you were supposed to vote for one of the 21 candidates. And people voted for 2, 3, and 4 candidates.
So that jungle election is now the election where there will be a runoff between Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Raphael Warnock. There were 20 plus candidates who were in that, so some people selecting too many people. She said about 50% of the ballots that had an issue were from that particular column. Now, so where do we stand when it comes to Fulton County and counting ballots? So right now there's about 3,000 provisional ballots that are still out there. There's also military ballots that are coming in. The deadline for that is 5 p.m. tomorrow. And also some people who may have filled out a provisional ballot, maybe they forgot their ID, they have an opportunity to cure that ballot, so they can still come and show their ID again until 5 p.m. tomorrow. So that is where they stand in Fulton County. So hopefully by tomorrow they will go through the process of scanning and the adjudication starting tomorrow morning. So we should have a complete count for Fulton County by tomorrow.
And you know, we salute them because they're putting in a lot of work to try to make sure that everything works out for all the voters and in our area. So talking about those volunteers, how do they feel about the process and the system?
Well, you know what, Ron, I spoke to another volunteer who's done this process before with the other system, before we got the new system, and she said she loves this system. She says it's so much easier, less time consuming, and which is hard to imagine because it feels like it's taking an eternity because we want these results right away. Right. But she said it's less paperwork, less laborious for them. They don't have to deal with all the paper. They can blow up the ballots on the screen. So she was really a fan of this new system, and she also is very confident, and so was Lee, who we spoke to, and the sound that you just heard. She was also very confident in this system as well. And we really appreciate all the hard work that they're doing right now. All right, Natisha, we'll talk to you later on in the broadcast. Right now, Gwinnett County is adjudicating 3,200 batches of ballots, and as of 5 p.m. election officials say they had gone through about 1,800 of them. In each of those batches, there could be up to 25 ballots. 11 Alive Chanu Her is outside the Gwinnett County Board of Elections tonight.
A few panels consisting of 3 people each are going through and adjudicating multiple batches of mail absentee ballots here in Gwinnett County that were affected by a software glitch. The adjudication process happens when a ballot is incorrectly marked. The panel reviews it to try to determine the voter's intent or if the ballot can be counted. Gwinnett County elections officials say they know that not all ballots coming in the batches are affected, so the number could be as low as 3,200 ballots impacted. A supervisor tells 11 Alive the results from ballots that aren't affected in the batches have already been reported to the state. She says the panels are working as quick as they can, but accuracy is important, and the process takes time.
After the adjudication of the ballots are complete, then those will be pushed over to the results files. Right now, as they're adjudicating, they're being held in the separate file.
On top of this, the county also reviewed 4,400 ballots from Election Day and 450 ballots received from an advanced in-person voting location that needed to be rescanned because of a data card error. Election officials are expecting this could take up to 3 days before results are out.
All right, Chanu, by the way, our 11 Alive voter access team is working around the clock, folks, to bring you the very latest on where Georgia stands, where the vote count stands. And you can find those updated results as well as the context of what they mean for you on the front page of 11alive.com. And our coverage election 2020 continues after the break.
Well, your 11 Alive storm trackers watching the radar, watching the satellite very carefully, and it looks like clouds are on the increase. So coming up, what that will mean for your weekend forecast.
The president's lead over Joe Biden in Georgia shrinking as the votes come in. Now, we heard from him earlier tonight in his first public speech since the early hours of the election night. And here to sort through all of it with me is Emory political science professor Dr. Andra Gillespie and Republican strategist Mike Messenger, who is in the midst of some technical issues. Mike, I sound like a radio host. You ready? Could you turn down your radio?
I can hear you just fine, Jeff.
Okay, great. All right. We're getting a little bit of an echo. There we go. Dr. Gillespie, let's begin, if we would, with President Trump. And his speech tonight was such that it was very fiery, very combative, very threatening, where he was questioning the integrity of the election. What sort of impact does that have, first of all, on this process, and second of all, those who voted for him? Is that an attempt to try and rally their support publicly?
I do interpret this as a base appeal. I think, he has his case in court in front of legal judges, but then he's also prosecuting the case in the court of public opinion. And so he's trying to rally his supporters around him in the hopes that they will be patient and that they will sort of wait this out with him. But then he also wants to elicit sympathy from them so that, he feels like a sympathetic victim in this particular case. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the votes are what they are. They will be counted. They will be counted fairly, and any decisions about throwing out ballots will not be made by regular people. They're going to be made based on the processes that have already been set up.
Mike, if the president continues this sort of tact in the days ahead and is not able to really garner any more electoral votes, how do you think that impacts his base? How do you think it impacts the Republican Party as defined by Donald Trump?
Well, the Republican Party, as defined by Donald Trump, has actually shifted significantly. We've seen Donald Trump, for the first Republican president since possibly 1972, make inroads into the African American community and win black votes. He's doing much better than expected among Hispanic voters. He seems to have turned off largely suburban white women. And in fairness, while he's doubled his support among African American women, he hasn't really built enough of a base to call that a coalition. The Republican Party is going to change. They're going to be more middle class, they're going to be more blue collar, and they're going to be much more diverse thanks to Donald Trump, which is ironic considering he's been portrayed as a racist, sexist, homophobe bigot for 4 years while he's held the office. His base will understand all of that. And I think they're smarter than most people are giving them credit for. They understand that close elections are not crooked elections, and they will absolutely accept the results of transparent, secure, and fair vote counting.
Dr. Gillespie, do you agree with that? Do you think the Republican Party, it switches now that they become the party of the working class and the Democrats become the party of privilege and that of high education?
Well, I mean, so I want to sort of qualify some of the things that Mike said. So while it is true that President Trump improved his vote share amongst African-American voters, 87% of African Americans voted for Joe Biden. That's actually pretty consistent with what we've seen in African American voting behavior in the last 56 years. So yeah, there were improvements on the margins. Overall, as a share, what we saw was basically President Trump improve his vote share in a very similar way to how George W. Bush did between 2000 and 2004. Yes, we do see higher numbers of African American men voting Republican in this election, but again, overwhelming majority of Black men and Black women voted for Joe Biden. The same thing is true if we look at Hispanic voters as well. I think people, want to look at those 2012 numbers where upwards of 70%, and even in the case of Asian Americans, about 75% of Asian Americans were voting for Barack Obama. But the number hovers around 70%. That's what the exit polls indicate is happening. And so, yeah, there, is some diversity within the Republican Party, but the vast majority of people of color, by a 2-to-1 margin almost in Asian American and Hispanic communities, and still by about a 9-to-1 margin in African American communities, are voting Democratic. And I don't see that shifting much anymore, Ice Cube and Lil Wayne notwithstanding.
All right, Dr. Gillespie, thank you. Mike Hassinger, thank you. We will see you a little bit later in the evening during our 10 o'clock broadcast.
Real 11 Alive storm trackers have been watching those temperatures on the rise. We started out in the upper 40s, so it was a little cool this morning, and then made it into the low 70s during the heat of the day. So we were about 4 degrees above average for our high temperature, just a degree below average for our low. And our overnight lows will not be as cool tonight or over the weekend. So it won't be another chilly, crisp weekend. It'll actually be a warm fall weekend. And we're going to see quite a few clouds as well. We've seen those clouds on the increase tonight, and we've seen some moisture trying to work its way in on an easterly flow. It's not making much headway though, and I don't think we're going to see any rain moving in at all, but we will see an increase in the cloud cover as moisture works its way around that area of high pressure here and brings in more moisture for clouds to form, and then potentially a few showers on Sunday, but just a 20% chance of that. But I do think we'll have warming temperatures all across North Georgia as we head into this weekend, and just enough cloud cover to make for some really beautiful sunsets like we saw tonight. We had many of our storm trackers posting beautiful sunset pictures, including Julie Druckman at Lake Lanier. Oop, I forgot my L. I had it there earlier. But Lake Lanier just looking beautiful with those bright pinks and blues in the sky at sunset. So we're looking at these temperatures now in the mid-40s in Blairsville, mid-50s in Gainesville, and in Marietta. We're at 53 in Carrollton right now. And overnight we'll see temperatures in the mid to low 50s. So it won't be as chilly as we were this morning. We'll see increased cloud cover as we head into the overnight hours. So on your Friday, on that scale of 1 to 11, with an 11 being a perfect day, a 10, as we'll just be a little above normal, and we'll see kind of cloudy skies from time to time, especially in the morning hours. We'll see plenty of sunshine during the afternoon, though, enough to get us into the low 70s. So clouds on the increase, humidity on the rise, and mostly dry until next week. And that's when we're going to have to watch the tropics again very carefully. Now, as far as what we're expecting tomorrow for Friday night football, a few clouds around, but I think it's going to be a nice start to the weekend, and then a few showers are going to try to work their way in from time to time over the course of Saturday and Sunday. We have just a 20% chance in on our Sunday, and then those rain chances going up as we head into next week because of this tropical depression Eta. It was a Cat 4 hurricane when it came into Central America. Now it's expected to curve off to the northeast over Cuba for the weekend and then head towards the Gulf of Mexico, where it is going to sit and spin for a few days. We'll get some of that moisture in to fuel some thunderstorms here this week, and then we'll have to watch that center of circulation probably end of next week into the weekend. So it's a slow moving system. So really nice the next couple of days, 20% chance on Sunday and Monday. And then we're looking at a 30% chance on Tuesday, and Veterans Day is Wednesday. Yep, and that's when we expect to see some moisture work its way in here in the form of showers and storms, a 50% chance on Veterans Day.
All right, thanks a lot, Sam. There are unsubstantiated claims spreading online about votes being thrown out in Metro Atlanta and across our country. Our Caitlin Ross verifies the facts on one of the most shared posts.
The original tweet has been deleted, but screenshots of it are still being shared tens of thousands of times. It urges DeKalb County absentee voters to check their ballot status, alleging that 40,000 ballots are going to be thrown out by Friday if they're not corrected. Both T.I. and Kerry Washington retweeted the original tweet, which then spread it around the internet like wildfire. But is it true? We went straight to the county, and Eric Burton says this claim is absolutely false. In a tweet, DeKalb County Votes addressed this claim directly online, saying this is incorrect information. They explain that just 200 ballots need to be corrected in the county. Each of those voters, all 200 where there are questions, is being contacted directly by the county right now. So we can verify the claim that there are 40,000 ballots in DeKalb County about to be tossed as false. If you have questions about the status of your ballot, you can always check the Georgia My Voter page to ensure that it was received and counted.
And as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, you only have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to cure your ballot if it was rejected, and you're going to find a step-by-step guide to that process, plus how to check the status of your absentee ballot on the 11 Alive app and on our website at 11alive.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. You know, the fight for Democrats to win the Senate majority could stretch well into 2021. The race to fill former Senator Johnny Isakson's seat is going to a runoff with Reverend Raphael Warnock and Kelly Loeffler in January. And then the second Senate race we need to talk about between Republican incumbent David Perdue and challenger Jon Ossoff could be next. Hope Ford joins us live with more on that. Hope?
Yeah, well, Ossoff's campaign says they're confident this Senate race is headed to a runoff. They're actually in the middle of preparing remarks for a 10 a.m. press conference tomorrow morning, so it'll be interesting to see what they have to say there. Now, Purdue's camp is maintaining they will have the most votes, and if not, then they will have the most votes in the runoff.
There is usually a huge drop-off in the number of participants. So the real challenge for these candidates who are going to go into runoffs is, can you get your people to come back and vote for you again?
UGA political science professor Charles Bullock says runoffs struggle to get voters to come out for a second time, especially this one, which will be less than 2 weeks after Christmas. Bullock says one area you won't see campaigns struggling: attack ads.
They become just vicious. You know, they may have been hard-hitting rounds before that, but when you get to the runoff, you know, everything is on the table.
Purdue and Ossoff already have a history of heated exchanges, so Bullock says expect more of that. Bullock also says you'll see more money pouring into the campaign.
National political parties will be spending money, but then also so will conservative groups and liberal groups.
And so far, at least one conservative PAC is already promising to channel $4 million to get Purdue and Republican Senator Kenny Loeffler reelected. Now, while it doesn't always happen, political experts say Senate incumbents tend to win runoff elections because of name recognition. But Bullock believes since 2 seats are up for grabs and this is a high-profile race, then all 4 candidates in both races will have to do a lot of work to win.
Yep, hope for it for us tonight. Thank you. Straight ahead, the presidential race in Georgia continues to tighten. How absentee ballots are shrinking President Trump's lead. The big story in Georgia absentee ballot counts are now shrinking President Trump's lead in our state. And once again, let's get to Brendan Keefe. He joins us with the county-by-county breakdown. Brendan?
And this is, again, changing by the minute. It's really fascinating. Now, Ron, this is really important. There are a couple of thousand votes left still to come out of Clayton County, actually more than 4,000 votes left to come out of Clayton County. So let's just zoom into Clayton County for 1 minute because this is important. Clayton County is quite literally the bluest county in the state of Georgia. 85% of the vote so far has gone to Biden. Actually, that's exactly the same percentage that went to Hillary Clinton in 2016. Now, what's interesting is if you take those 4,000 votes and you give them to Joe Biden, you split them with this 85% figure, what you end up with is you can end up whittling down the lead for Donald Trump right now, which is 2,497 votes. That's it. That's the whole election right now. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's actually 0.05%, or multiply the 4.8 million votes by 0.0005, and that's the number you get. 2,497 is the spread right now. It's really extraordinary. We're still waiting on some other counties, but the other biggest county right now is going to be Gwinnett County. And so let's just erase this so we can do a little zooming. Give me 1 second. This will reset our screen. It also will refresh the numbers for us. They haven't changed. We're still there at that 2,497. So the other big number is out of Gwinnett that we're expecting. That's 4,800 votes. And the 4,800 votes we may not get till tomorrow or even Saturday because they have to be adjudicated and they have to go through a rescanning system. So we may not get that answer tonight, but we may get those Clayton County numbers. We are hearing the Clayton County numbers may come in by midnight. And so you're going to want to continue to watch here, but you're also going to want to watch us on 11 Alive News at 11 because we're going to have, on our newscast. It's been a long couple of days. Have you noticed? I know what it's called. It's called Up Late. It's our favorite show. And, but man, we are fried. And why are we fried? Because it's still election night and it's Wednesday night. But this is the system working. It's really important to point this out. These aren't new votes. It's Thursday too, by the way. And you know how I know? A voice just told me in my ear. That's how crazy it is. Because it's still Tuesday on Thursday night. So anyway, back to where we were. We're trying to keep track of these numbers, but these are not new votes. These are votes that were already cast that are just being counted because it's taking this long to count them. So you're going to want to watch because we may get those Clayton County numbers in, and they could be big enough to actually affect the race when we're talking about 4,800 also coming in from Gwinnett. That's the story. We'll stay on it, and I promise I'm going to have some caffeine, and I will be razor sharp the next time we give you an update on the numbers.
You and Alec, you guys are doing an outstanding job, and yes, you have been putting in a lot of work, and I just want to assure our viewers out there the voices that you're hearing in your head does not require medication, but is actually from the producer who is giving you updates.
Right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ron.
All right, Brendan, we'll check in with you later on. Hey, we're going to keep track of the latest results as the votes continue to come in, and if you want them sent straight to your phone, just text the word result to the number on your screen. You can also download the 11 Alive News app to get an alert as soon as the race is called here in Georgia. You know, the election race moves towards a pivotal moment in the battleground states where final votes are being counted. Camilla Bernal has the story.
As the vote counts keep coming, many Americans continue to be divided. Protests throughout the U.S. from both sides.
We believe Donald Trump has been fraudulently kind of screwed in multiple states.
The only way he can win is to steal an election.
Legally cast mail-in votes are still being counted in key states where the outcome is too close to call.
We will respect the will of the people of Pennsylvania. Whoever gets more votes in that election will be deemed the winner by the Commonwealth.
But I think all of us would agree that having an accurate count is much more vital. An accurate and fair count is much more vital than having a fast count.
President Trump's team is seeking to keep his slim path to victory alive, launching legal challenges in multiple states without offering evidence of irregularities. The president continuing to sow mistrust in the election results with false claims.
We were winning in all the key locations by a lot, actually. And then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away in secret
We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon.
Concerns over the use of Sharpie markers at polling places is raising a lot of questions about whether or not those votes are counted. Erica Stapleton verifies.
The Maricopa County Elections Department says if you use a Sharpie like this one and fill out your ballot correctly, it should count, even if it bleeds through.
Was my ballot or my wife's ballot actually counted?
A lingering question for Eric Fletcher of Gilbert after he was given a Sharpie by poll workers when he voted in person.
I filled out my front side of my ballot with the Sharpie, and when I turned it over, it had bled through so badly that I was a little bit concerned.
After a poll worker assured him it was fine, he put his ballot in the
went through
tabulator
fine,
himself.
But my wife, who had the same issue and the same problem, had multiple times of having to put her ballot through before it took the ballot.
The use of Sharpies drawing concerns statewide. The Arizona Attorney General's office now investigating after it got hundreds of complaints. They're asking election leaders to provide information on whether any ballots were rejected because of Sharpie ink bleeding through.
Those Sharpies are the ones that we provided at vote centers because they're the fastest drying ink.
Erica Flores with the Maricopa County Elections Department says they tested Sharpies, even put out videos ahead of the election saying they're safe to use.
We have new tabulation equipment that only reads the ovals.
She adds the ovals on the back don't line up with the ovals on the front. In other words,
even with that bleed through, it's not filling in any other oval on the other side.
Some of the Sharpie voters we heard from also concerned because the status of their mail-in ballot says canceled. Secretary of State Katie Hobbs explains on Twitter that it could say that if you requested a mail-in ballot but wound up voting in person, canceling out your mail-in ballot. The Elections Department says you can only check the status of early or mail-in ballots online, not in-person voting. So anything that comes up saying canceled is not related to an in-person vote.
Our presidential election has people all across the globe on the edge of their seats because the stakes are so high for many countries outside of the USA. And what's happening here is the lead story in a lot of newscasts from Asia to Australia. NBC's Sarah Harmon reports from London.
America votes and the world waits and waits and waits.
Joe Biden is inching closer to taking the White House, and for Donald Trump, the path to victory is narrowing.
Today is actually a big news day in the UK. England is under national lockdown for a month starting today, but you wouldn't know it to look at some of the papers. Check this out. The front page has got Lady Liberty saying, "Is it over yet?" The Daily Mail, a popular tabloid, saying, "Donald Trump." World leaders are remaining circumspect. No one wants to congratulate the wrong candidate too early.
I'm not a participant in the US political process. I am a partner.
But we have heard from Russian opposition dissident Alexei Navalny, who didn't seem to think that all the waiting was a bad thing. Elsewhere, we've heard from Germany, from New Zealand, and from Japan that their governments would work with whoever is the winner of this election. Here in the UK, it makes a big difference because Boris Johnson will find himself negotiating a potential free trade deal with whoever takes office in the United States. For now, America waits and Europe waits with it. Sarah Harmon, NBC News, London.
We've seen some clouds moving in tonight, but I think it'll still be a really nice start to the day if you're up and at 'em early, taking your dog out for a walk, low 50s, excuse me, I want to say low 30s, that'd be a little chilly. Low 50s. We should be in the upper 60s by lunchtime, low 70s by dinner time on our Friday night, and things are looking good for Friday night football. But coming up, the changes you can expect for the weekend.
There are a lot of voters out there really concerned about the process of verifying election results. Our Cheryl Preheim had a chance to speak with our 11 Alive legal analyst, Paige Pate, about that and more.
Joining us now, 11 Alive legal analyst Paige Tate. Paige, we've had a lot of people contacting us about the process of counting and certifying results, but this is actually a very normal part of every single election. We heard today from the Secretary of State's office, they've been trying to let people know ahead of time for months now that this is exactly what was going to play out.
That's exactly right. It would be extraordinary for us to actually have a decision and a final vote count on election day. What's unusual this year, of course, is the number of absentee ballots. In most cases, that's not going to determine the outcome of election. And in most cases, it won't take that long to process those ballots because you just don't have as many of them as we do this year. So the process now is a counting process. That's what state law says. You vote on Tuesday, this week you count, and then next week you certify. So the fact that we don't have a final vote tally today or maybe even tomorrow is not a violation of the law, and it's not that unusual.
And worth reinforcing that this is what happens in every election. However, there's been record turnout in this election and a record number of absentee ballots because of the pandemic. But the process this election is exactly like it has been in every other United States election.
That's exactly correct. However, I do see a potential problem because it looks like, at least for the presidential election, we're getting close to runoff territory. And normally that's not a big deal. That's going to take a lot of time when you have machine voting and you have scannable ballots. But again, we have so many absentee mail-in ballots this year that I think doing a recount of those ballots may put us into an additional week or so. So we just have to see how that plays out. But one thing I would like to say, with all of the attention on Georgia election officials, there has been no evidence of fraud in this election. And I've just got to compliment the folks who are working so hard to run this election for what they have done so far.
Yeah, for the amount of work and the amount of scrutiny, it's been unprecedented in so many different ways. Always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The 2020 election is making history for a lot of reasons out there, but one, which is the big one, Georgia voters cast more absentee ballots this year than any previous election. However, there is a chance your ballot was possibly rejected and will not be counted, but you still have a small window to fix all of that until 5 p.m. tomorrow, and it's called curing your ballot. So here's how it works. There are a lot of reasons the ballots can be rejected. If your signature is not in the correct location on the envelope, or if you used an X instead of filling in the ovals for candidates, for example here. And there are a couple of other steps you should take to secure your vote. First, check to see if your absentee ballot was accepted or rejected. You can do this through the My Voter page on the Secretary of State's website. Now, under Georgia state law, the County Board of Registrars should immediately inform you if your ballot is rejected, and it's up to you to submit your voter identification and an affidavit confirming the ballot submitted is actually yours. And you can usually do this in person at the county election office, but you want to check their elections website or call ahead just to make sure. Once all of that is done, your ballot can be counted for the election. But remember once again here, folks, you only have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to cure your ballot or to fix your ballot. And we've posted some links right there on our website at 11alive.com. Sam?
Thank you, Ron. Well, we're watching a few clouds roll in tonight, but no rain as of yet. It's trying to work its way in around an easterly flow, around high pressure that's off the middle Atlantic. It's kind of like the Bermuda High, but it's a little bit further north, but very well established. But it's bringing in a bit of an easterly flow, so a few clouds out there. It's a little more humid, and these showers are trying to make some headway, but they're just not making it very far inland. So we'll continue to see that easterly flow as we head into tomorrow. That'll bring in more clouds, should make for a nice sunrise and a nice sunset tomorrow. And David Wentworth in Cherokee capturing this picture of those high clouds moving in at sunset, making for just a sorbet colored sky tonight. Really beautiful in Cherokee County as the sun went down. Of course, the sun set at 5:41 tonight. Of course, it's setting a lot earlier since we fell back over the weekend. But we're looking at these high temperatures that were incredibly warm today at 68 in Gainesville, 70 in Rome, 67 in Carrollton, 72 in LaGrange, 73 in Thomaston. And now temperatures have cooled a little bit, but I don't think we're going to cool as much as we did this morning when we made it all the way down to 47 degrees. So we're not going to be as chilly with the increased cloud cover, and because we warmed up a little bit more today. So overnight, we're going to continue to see those clouds kind of hang in there, and temperatures are going to be in the mid-50s, low to mid-50s across much of the Atlanta area overnight. And then as you head out the door, you can expect to see a very nice day shaping up. A few more clouds than we had today, and it should be a smidgen or two warmer, but it's going to be a very nice way to wrap up the work week. And that means Friday night football games are going to be great. You won't need the stadium blankets, you won't need the hot cocoa unless you just want it, but we'll end up seeing the clouds kind of hang in there with breaks of sunshine during the day, and a very nice way to end the week and head into the weekend. A few more clouds, like we said, as we get into our Friday, and then Saturday, I think we'll see clouds from time to time, but more sunshine than we'll see clouds. It'll be the sunniest day of the weekend. And then as we get into our weekend, we'll end up seeing some showers trying to work their way in here. This is Saturday night, actually, in Eatonton, and a few showers are trying to edge their way on in from the east side. But I don't think we'll see anything widespread, just a chance for some widely scattered showers. So this is what we're watching as we head into next week. Eta, you know, it was a Cat 4 as it came into Central America. Just a depression now, expected to strengthen into a tropical storm over Cuba as we head into this weekend, then into the Gulf it goes. And from that point, we're going to have to watch it carefully. I think it's going to be in the Gulf for a few days, though, so we'll have plenty of time to watch it as it sits and spins here in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. It will definitely bring in more moisture for us and enhance some rainfall this week. So dry the next couple of days, mostly dry on Sunday and Monday. And then as we head into next week, rain chances going up with a 50% chance of showers and storms on Wednesday.
Thanks a lot, Sam. You know, there's a college student in Massachusetts who voted absentee, found out that his ballot was actually sent to the city with the right name, but in the wrong state. Amber Lake explains.
It was a bit of a roller coaster. I was pretty upset about my vote not being able to count potentially.
Alex Duclos is a college student in Massachusetts, but filled out and sent his absentee ballot back to his hometown of Bethel, Maine. Or so he thought.
I went that day, like always, to check the P.O. box. I opened the box and I saw what I could tell was not a normal piece of mail. I pulled it out and it was a ballot that was intended to go to Bethel, Maine. It made me sick to my stomach when I saw it because every vote counts in an election as crucial as this one.
A woman named Jessica in Bethel, North Carolina had received my ballot, and it was kind of crazy because I had assumed my ballot had been processed a while ago.
He was very upset like I was at the beginning. I mean, he literally, I could not believe that his vote ended up in Bethel, North Carolina.
Jessica Britt, the town clerk in Bethel, North Carolina, called Loretta Powers, the town manager in Bethel, Maine.
When I got the call, I'm like, what? And she said, I said, let me call my Secretary of State's office to see how they want to handle this.
I felt pretty helpless just because I don't have a car down here, so I couldn't get home. It's my first time being able to vote in a presidential election, so it was very important to me as an American that I made my voice heard.
No one was sure if Duclos's ballot would make it to Maine in time for his vote to count.
They ended up pulling some strings and they sent it up, and it made it in I'd say 8 hours. I was notified that it was there and that my vote was going to count.
For Britt, it was important to do.
This is the first time I've ever voted, and I feel like every voice needs to be heard.
It's peace of mind knowing that there's people that care enough that they'll make something work for you.
Hey, why don't we check in with Samantha Moore real quick for an update on the weather?
Okay, well, we're talking about it looking pretty nice as we head into this weekend, Ron. We'll end up seeing temperatures here in the low 70s on our Friday and Saturday, and no chance of rain until Sunday, and then just a 20% chance, and it looks like it could be stormy by the time we get to Wednesday of next week.
Okay, we got more election coverage straight ahead. Stay with us.
11 Alive News Primetime on the ATL starts now.
Tabulated in Georgia, how they are counting all the ballots left in Fulton County. Georgia is now on track to have both U.S. Senate races headed to a runoff for January 5th. We're taking a closer look at the next round of campaigning that has already begun. Country is watching Georgia as the race for the White House narrows. We're bringing you team coverage tonight as counties work on tabulating the final votes. We want to get right to Brendan Keefe. He is giving us a look, a breakdown of everything that we have right now.
That's right, Jeff. We just got some new numbers in. In fact, they're so new, they haven't even updated yet on the board. But right now, Donald Trump leads Joe Biden by 1,902 votes. Let's actually pop over to the Secretary of State's numbers so you can see the exact spread right here. It's now below 2,000 vote lead. We are talking about fractions of a percent now, in fact, hundredths of a percent. The distance between these two candidates is now 4/100ths of 1%. 2.44 million, 2.44 million. If anyone ever says your vote doesn't count, your vote is represented in these numbers one way or the other, and they could determine the election. And of course, this election could also determine who is the next president of the United States. If you give Joe Biden Georgia, he will be the next president of the United States based on the current map. Of course, we can also game this out. We haven't done this yet, so let's actually, right now, because the president is leading, again, by 1,902 votes, if you give Donald Trump Georgia, that brings him up to 230 at this point. And then what would he have to win to get there? If he won Pennsylvania, he would get to 250. If he also picked up Nevada, he's at 256. He would then have to claim North Carolina, where it looks like he may do that, and then Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. So you can see how important this is to sort of the path to victory for either of these candidates at this point. And that's why all eyes are on Georgia right now. Let's see if those numbers have updated. They did. So our numbers have just updated here, and we also have where those numbers came from. They came from Rockdale County. And Rockdale County is interesting because we haven't really been talking much about Rockdale County. Rockdale County is solidly blue these days with 70% of the vote. We did not know about any outstanding ballots left to be counted in Rockdale. We are getting our information directly from the Secretary of State, and then we've been contacting those counties for information. So when this came up, it was only, a few hundred votes that we saw. Well, actually, it came out to 595 net. For Joe Biden in Rockdale County, and that was enough to change the numbers in the race to where it brought it within below 2,000. Again, just to show you exactly where it is right now, 1,902 votes separate these two men out of 4.9 million almost votes now. I mean, we're basically going to get very close to 5 million votes for president. And right now it's coming down to the wire. Are there enough votes left out there? That's the big question. By our count, yes, there is. There's about 14,000 votes still left out there to be counted. We'll bring you that information just as soon as we get it.
Yeah, you're talking about 5 million votes that have been cast, now down to 1,000. That's amazing.
And it's not just Georgia. The whole country, the next president of the United States depends on this count, potentially.
Wow, incredible. Brendan, thank you. Tonight we're fact-checking President Trump after he addressed the nation around 7 o'clock tonight, claiming that he was being cheated out of the election, but we must stress that he did not provide any specific evidence to support it. President Trump also talked about the vote count in Georgia.
Likewise in Georgia, I won by a lot, with a lead of over getting close to 300,000 votes on election night in Georgia. And by the way, got whittled down. The election apparatus in Georgia is run by Democrats. We also had margins of 300,000.
We can verify that his last statement is false. Georgia's Secretary of State's office is run by a Republican, Brad Raffensperger. Earlier today, we asked his voter system implementation manager directly about public concerns of rigging the election through absentee ballots.
I think if anyone's going to try to rig a system, they might have seen something a little bit less close than this. That's one. Two, we have in this process 159 dedicated elections directors and their staff who are working to get this right. They're working diligently every single day. We know how many requests came in for absentee ballots. We know how many ballots were received. So that is an outward bound, so nobody could suddenly show up with 100,000 extra ballots somewhere. In this state in particular, we take security very seriously. The entire name of our campaign for launching this new system was Secure Your Vote, and it's really important. And I understand that in other states there are questions. I can only speak for this state, and I can speak for the people of Secretary Raffensperger's staff, the elections directors around the state. They're going to get it right. We're going to have an audit to prove they got it right. We went for risk limiting audit, which is a little more difficult to do than traditional audit. We're going to have a recount for president more than likely, and people will see those outcomes stay essentially the same. The recount we had in Savannah really proved that the scanned ballots were the same as when a human being read and counted those ballots. So I feel like in this state, we've taken the steps at every level to secure that vote and make sure the integrity of the ballot is protected.
So we are seeking to verify other claims the president made about Georgia during his news conference. We will have that coming up for you on Up Late at 11 on 11 Alive. Meanwhile, Joe Biden made remarks in Wilmington, Delaware, a few hours before the president on the status of vote counting in the remaining states.
In America, the vote is sacred. It's how people of this nation express their will. And it is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted. And that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be.
The country is watching Georgia, the world as well, as we wait for more votes to come in. Fulton County officials say election workers have completed processing absentee by mail ballots. Natisha Lance joins us live in downtown Atlanta, where you have been outside State Farm Arena most of the night.
Yeah, that's right, Jeff. We have. And actually, I was listening to that sound that you had with President Trump and those claims that he's making. There were still supporters who were out here for President Trump demonstrating in front of State Farm Arena. They just wrapped up a few minutes ago. They've been out here since earlier in the day. They had an issue with the way the votes were being counted. So he is getting some support here when it comes to that. But when it comes to those absentee ballots in Fulton County, they are done. And really, a lot of the credit goes to the adjudication volunteers who worked late into the night, or I should say early into the morning, some of them not leaving until 6 o'clock in the morning, and then coming back at 10 a.m. this morning to finish the job. And that job, as I mentioned, was adjudicating those ballots, looking for ballots that had any kind of issues with them. And a representative from both sides, a Republican and a Democrat, would look over those ballots and try to determine what the voter intended when they were casting their vote. So we did speak to one woman who was a Democratic adjudicator, and she said there was a common theme with some of the ballots that had a problem. Take a listen to what she said.
Most of the ballots that were reviewed were because in the jungle election, you were supposed to vote for one of the 21 candidates, and people voted for 2, 3, and 4 candidates.
And sometimes she said it comes down to just reading the directions. People get so excited when they get in there to cast their vote, they don't read the directions on there. So we now know that that race will be a runoff between Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Raphael Warnock. She said about 50% of the ballots that had an issue was because of that jungle election, or jungle race as it's so called. So at this point, Fulton County almost completely done. We still have provisional ballots to get through. I'm told there's about 3,000 of them still. And then also military ballots. We'll have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to come in. And then also people have an opportunity to cure their ballots. So if they did do a provisional and they forgot their ID, they have the opportunity up until 5 o'clock tomorrow to make that right or fix the issue. So we are just very, very close, but not there quite yet in terms of getting every eligible ballot counted in Fulton County, Jeff.
There really was an army of volunteers to help with all of this. How did they feel about the process and the system? Did you get any sense of that? Did you get to talk with any of them?
Well, Jeff, you know as well as I do, since that June primary, there's been a lot of controversy about this new system. But the volunteers that I spoke to said, at least the ones who were adjudicating, said they love the new system. They said it makes it so much easier for them to do this job. I spoke to a woman who's done it before in the past. She said it's less paperwork for them because they're able to look at everything just through a monitor. They can make it bigger, they can make it smaller, and they're able to get through them instead of taking, what could take minutes within 20 seconds to a minute. So they love the new system, and they feel pretty confident about it as well.
Natisha Lance, thank you. We appreciate it. Outside State Farm Arena tonight. All right, weather time. A very sunny day. Lovely weather for the most part tonight.
Oh, gosh, wasn't I? Hope you got out and could see the sunset. It was gorgeous as those high clouds moved in, and they just made for a beautiful sunset at about 5:40 tonight in Cherokee County. So coming up, what these clouds mean and how that will impact your weekend coming up.
Wow, what a beautiful picture that is. It's been over 48 hours since polls closed here in our state. Next, political analysts weigh in to give us perspective as the narrow margins loom large. President Trump leading Joe Biden by a thin margin in Georgia that keeps on shrinking. Joining me now to talk about the latest developments, Emory political science professor Dr. Andra Gillespie and Republican strategist Mike Hassinger. Dr. Gillespie, let's begin with you. This sort of path toward the presidency for Joe Biden right now. What is his team looking at as far as the possibilities go right now?
Well, I mean, he's looking to see where he's ahead and whether or not he is maintaining that lead as people, as more votes come in each of these states. So there are multiple paths for Joe Biden to the presidency. So if he wins Arizona and Nevada, it's game over. He's at 270 electoral college votes. If he wins Georgia, that's 269, which would force a tie, which would go to the House of Representatives if Joe Biden won nothing else. And if he wins Pennsylvania, it doesn't matter what happens here in Georgia or Nevada or Arizona, he could win. He could win the election. The path is a little bit more narrow for President Trump. He can only afford to lose one state. And so that's why it's a little bit more precarious, which is probably why you're hearing him say some of the things that he's saying, because he is actually in the more defensive position.
Mike, any sense of how those in the Republican Party and leadership are looking at all of this? I mean, there's great concern, obviously, about losing the White House, but there are broader issues ahead as well for the party, yes?
Yeah, there are. But before I address those, let me just get my one chance ever to out-nerd Dr. Andra Gillespie and say that I've actually added up all the combinations of possible outcomes. There are 32 of them. Joe Biden wins in 27, Donald Trump wins in 4, and 1 is a tie. So place your bets according to that. And to your question about the Republican Party, I want to point out, I'm going to tell a little tale out of school on my party members here. You're not hearing a whole lot of elected Republicans screaming about vote count, vote fraud, protect the president. I think this has been a very transactional presidency, and Republicans who privately expressed discomfort with Donald Trump have gotten what they wanted. They've gotten some tax cuts. They've gotten some sort of progress on the immigration issue. They've gotten a bunch of federal judges, 3 Supreme Court justices, an expanded Republican hold in the House, and a possible retention of the Senate majority. If that's all you can expect out of Donald Trump, then we will let this election, I'm speaking for them now, they'll let this election go towards Joe Biden and be very quiet and happy about it.
Along those same lines, does Kelly Loeffler in this runoff now divorce herself of Donald Trump? I mean, she has said that she has agreed with absolutely everything. Does she change her strategy a little bit as she goes against Reverend Warnock?
Well, she's going to pivot to the center. You know, she's going to have to by necessity in this particular race. The problem is that she veered so far to the right that it may be difficult for her to come back to the center with any credibility. And so I expect that Reverend Warnock is going to try to exploit that as much as possible. But ultimately, at the end of the day, these 2 Senate races in the runoff, and I presume that the Purdue-Ossoff race is going to go to a runoff, are going to come down to turnout. So what we see from this race is that Democrats and Republicans are now pretty evenly matched in the state. So whichever party has the better turnout operation is probably going to be the one that's going to actually end up carrying these seats when this goes to a runoff in January.
Mike, your view on Senator Loeffler and what she will be doing in the months ahead?
Republicans have done better traditionally in Georgia turning out voters in runoffs than Democrats have. I've yet to find a cause for that, except that for whatever reason, historically, Democrats don't show up for runoffs. And to do it any reason, any attempt to find a cause is just speculation. So historically, Loeffler's got the winds at her back. But what she will run as is a means of holding the Senate, because if both Senate seats from Georgia are in play, that is control of the Senate. And that's what's at stake. So we're going to see a lot of money spent and a lot of effort, just as Dr. Gillespie said, to get out the vote. Republicans respond well to runoff messages, and we'll see if they do it again this time.
And it happened about a decade ago with Saxby Chambliss and Jim Martin, and Democrats did not turn out for Jim Martin in the runoff, as I recall.
But the difference this time as opposed to last time is that there were way more Republicans than there were Democrats in the state. And so I think that that dynamic is going to change everything. So this really is all about mobilization.
All right, Dr. Gillespie and Mike Hessinger, thank you. We'll see you on 11 Alive in about 1 hour from now. All right, weather time, here we go.
And yeah, it's looking pretty good out there. Temperatures are nice and comfortable for an evening walk. 70 in Canton. It's 71 in Atlanta, 72 in Peachtree City. These are the temperatures from our high temperatures from today, but it's still pretty comfortable out there at the moment. We have a few clouds that have moved in, made for a really nice sunset. We're seeing some moisture work its way in from the east around high pressure that's over the middle Atlantic. That's bringing in that easterly flow here. And that's going to take our humidity up a bit the next few days and bring in some more clouds and make for beautiful sunrises and sunsets. This is from Tom Howell, one of our 11 Alive storm trackers in Woodstock. Look at that. Right as the sun was going down below the horizon. This was after sunset, twilight time, and just gorgeous as the sun made its way down below the horizon. So 60 degrees right now in Atlanta. Still pretty comfortable out there. 57 in Athens, 59 in Eatonton, and 61 in Thomaston. And as we head into the overnight hours, we're talking mid-50s as opposed to mid to upper 40s. So it won't be as chilly tomorrow to start. We'll end up with temperatures in the low 70s. That's a 10 on the wazometer on our Friday. No chance for rain. There will be some morning clouds, and then we'll see some peaks of sunshine during the day. I think even more than a few peaks. I think it's going to be a really nice afternoon and nice for Friday night football too. So just a few clouds as we head into the overnight, and then tomorrow morning we'll have some clouds during the day off and on, but I think we'll see mostly sunny skies tomorrow. So a really nice one. And then on Saturday we see an increase in the cloud cover, but we should still stay dry despite the fact some showers are going to try to work their way in from the east. So we'll certainly be watching the radar screens for that. 20% chance on our Sunday, just a slight chance. I think it's going to be a great weekend overall. And then as the weekend rolls on and we get into next week, the rain chances will be going up. 30% chance on Tuesday, and now midweek we could get some remnant moisture in from Tropical Depression Eta, and that could increase our chance for showers and storms on Veterans Day. Hey, here's your weather wow from Scott Anna. His birthday was on Election Day, by the way. Happy birthday, belated birthday, Scott. In Union County, a nice fall picture of the beautiful fall colors and just the tranquil. What a nice hike. I would like to go up here and do a little hiking. So autumn in Union County, and that's Union County, not Union City, Union County, and that's in North Georgia. So if you'd like to be a storm tracker, just go to our 11 Alive Storm Tracker Facebook page and sign up, and hopefully we'll see your work right here.
Coming up next, Georgia could now have both Senate races headed to a runoff as votes continue to be counted. That's coming up next. Tonight we're watching to see if the contest for Georgia's Senate seat moves to a runoff. It is very likely. Senator Perdue remains below the 50% plus one threshold to avoid a runoff. That election would also take place on January 5th. The fight for Democrats to win the Senate majority could stretch into 2021. The race to fill former Senator Johnny Isakson's seat is going to a runoff with the Reverend Raphael Warnock and Senator Kelly Loeffler in January. And the second state Senate race between Republican incumbent Senator David Perdue and his Democratic challenger Jon Ossoff could be next. Hope Ford joins us live. She has more on a very interesting scenario.
Yeah, that's right. And Ossoff is actually preparing to make remarks at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's going to be the first time that we're hearing from Ossoff or Perdue in person since a runoff became more likely. Of course, both campaigns, they're still maintaining that they are going to win it all. But if it does go to a runoff, political experts think that they're going to have a lot of work ahead of them.
There is usually a huge drop-off in the number of participants. So the real challenge for these candidates who are going to go into runoffs is, can you get your people to come back and vote for you again?
UGA political science professor Charles Bullock says runoffs struggle to get voters to come out for a second time, especially this one, which will be less than 2 weeks after Christmas. Bullock says one area you won't see campaigns struggling: attack ads.
They become just vicious. They may have been hard-hitting rounds before that, but when you get to the runoff, everything is on the table.
Perdue and Ossoff already have a history of heated exchanges, so Bullock says expect more of that. Bullock also says you'll see more money pouring into the campaign.
National political parties will be spending money, but then also so will conservative groups and liberal groups.
And so far, at least one conservative PAC is already promising to channel $4 million to get Perdue and Loeffler reelected. And while it doesn't always happen, political experts say Senate incumbents tend to win runoff elections because they have name recognition. But Bullock believes since both seats are up for grabs, this is a high-profile race, so all four candidates in both Senate races, he believes they will have to do a lot of work to win this.
All right, Hope, thank you. The nation's looking at Georgia as we wait for election results. How this race for president, unlike anything else that we have seen in our lifetime. We're breaking news tonight in DeKalb County where 2 people were found shot. Police tell us it happened in Stone Mountain, East Highway 10, south of Highway 78. A man died, a woman taken to the hospital. There's no word on her condition. Police believe the shooting was a domestic. We will update you as we learn more. Back to politics. Absentee ballot counts are shrinking. President Trump's lead in Georgia once again is very small. Brendan Keefe joins us with a look at where we stand right now.
Oh, and
this just in. I love it, man. Please say it. Begin that way. This just
even
in.
though we've got all these electronics here, you know, and the earpiece in and everything,
ahead,
it's
let
like
it out.
Here it is. It's like I've just been handed fresh copy off of the wire machine.
That is it.
Alec McQuaid just delivered these numbers, and here you go. This is the new lead. Let me write it down here because it's big. And what I mean by big is the news is big. The number keeps getting smaller. So I know it's suspenseful watching me draw on a screen, but it looks like 1775 is the new lead for Donald Trump. Donald Trump in the lead with 1,775 votes. There's still over 10,000 left to count. And we're still looking at these. The numbers are coming in so fast, and you may be doing the math going, wait, that doesn't add up. That is because the numbers are coming in so quickly. We're crunching them before our ticker can even keep up at this point. What we're doing is looking at election results coming in from around the state. We just got some numbers from Rockdale in the last hour. Those weren't necessarily expected, but it turns out that the numbers may be those overseas and military ballots that are starting to get counted. Remember, they can arrive as late as the end of the day tomorrow and still count. So long as they were postmarked by Election Day. So that's the important part there. That may be a big factor here, especially when you're looking at this number. 1775. There's still 4,800 ballots. Where? 4,800 ballots in Gwinnett that we don't think we're going to hear about tonight. We think that's going to be at least tomorrow. So with that number in Gwinnett, that's obviously a number big enough to change this number. Even if Joe Biden takes the lead, again, still a big if right now, but if he were to take the lead tonight, that could flip back to Donald Trump once those other ballots are counted. And again, there's still these military and overseas ballots that could come in. This is going to end up almost assuredly in a recount and almost assuredly in an audit and a recanvass. And you know, when that happens, it sometimes swings a few hundred votes one way or the other as that process goes on. Normally, this would be a Georgia story. We'd be talking about, wow, isn't it amazing, Georgia possibly turning blue, except it's actually a national story because of the electoral map. And of course, if you give Georgia and the 16 electoral votes, you actually end up, really quickly, let's just do it, you actually end up with Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. So we're keeping a very close eye on this right now. All right, Brendan, hang on. It's happening to me too. I've just been handed something. This just in. Yours is, you have a bigger note than mine. 1775, that's what you said, correct? That's right. I'm being handed that the American Revolutionary War was fought between 1775 and 1783. Yes. Well, it's fascinating when you start looking at these numbers. No question about it. Brendan, thanks for the update. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Every election is important. Every election in its own way is historic. But this one is something else. As close as it has been, it is unlike anything in our state's history. Here's Matt Pearl.
As of now, neither President Trump nor former Vice President Biden will clear 50% of the Georgia vote. The last time that happened, according to the American Presidency Project, was 1996, when Bob Dole won the state with 47%. Before that, it was Bill Clinton in '92 with 43%. Those races had a prominent third-party candidate in Ross Perot. They were also decided by fewer than 5% of the vote. The only 2 times that's happened in Georgia since the Civil War. You'd have to go pre-Civil War to find a race in Georgia decided by this small a number of votes. In 1848, Georgians voted Zachary Taylor over Lewis Cass by less than 3,000 votes. That's an election where only 92,000 even voted, as opposed to this year's roughly 5 million. As for margin of victory, right now Biden and Trump are separated by less than half a percentage point. The last time that happened, it hasn't. This will likely be the closest vote for president in Georgia's history. It's so close, we even got a viewer email asking, given all the talk of runoffs, would there be one here if neither candidate gets to 50%? Well, the answer is no. In a presidential election, the leading vote-getter gets all the electoral votes. However, that's not the case in Georgia's 2 Senate races. We'll see definitely 1, likely 2 runoffs for 2 pivotal U.S. Senate seats. If you're a voter, here are the dates you need to know. November 18th, that's a week from next Wednesday. It's when voters can request an absentee ballot for the Senate runoff candidates. December 7th, that's the deadline to register to vote. And a week later, December 14th, is when early voting begins. Election Day is Tuesday, January 5th. 2 months from today, it will mark the conclusion of a most unique election in the state of Georgia.
Matt Pearl reporting for us. Now the president sent out a tweet regarding surprise ballots in some states. Jason Puckett breaks down the ballot counting process and he verifies.
Wednesday morning, the president sent out this tweet saying last night he was leading in many key states. Then the leads, quote, started to magically disappear as surprise ballot dumps were counted. Here's the president in the early morning hours on Wednesday.
We're winning Michigan, but I'll tell you, I looked at the numbers. I said, whoa. I said, wow, that's a lot. By almost 300,000 votes, and 65% of the vote is in. And we're winning Wisconsin.
Now, since that speech, Wisconsin and Michigan have both counted more votes, and the president and former vice president have been jockeying for the lead. The president says these changes are due to surprise ballots, which are, quote, very strange. But there's nothing surprising or strange going on right now. We even verified this yesterday, before the polls closed. Wisconsin and Michigan are both states where ballot counting didn't start until Election Day. That means the record-breaking number of mail-in absentee ballots couldn't be counted before Tuesday. The states knew this was going to take time. Here's the Michigan Secretary of State earlier this week.
We are on track to see double the number of absentee ballots, just over 3 million, submitted before 8 p.m. tomorrow. Based on basic math, we should expect it would take no more than 80 hours to count those ballots, which would take us through Friday.
And Wisconsin published a series of videos in October explaining that
accurate election results take time. The numbers you hear on election night aren't actually official.
Bottom line, the claim that these numbers magically changed due to surprising ballots is false. At this point, there's no evidence these are anything other than legitimately cast ballots being counted like normal. Folks, if you see other election claims out there you want us to check out, send us an email.
As the president and his campaign cast doubt on the integrity of the election, protests breaking out in Georgia, small ones, and other states. NBC's Chris Pallone following some of the tensions across the country tonight.
As the nation waits for a winner, Americans are hitting the streets. Supporters of Democrat Joe Biden turning out to demand that officials nationwide count every vote. Supporters of President Trump are out in force as well, protesting the continuation of vote counting in some states, echoing the president's unsupported claim that the election is being stolen from him. In several states, election officials are taking steps like setting up barriers in Arizona to prevent the repeat of tense clashes seen Wednesday as pro-Trump demonstrators harassed election workers and tried to enter places where ballots are being counted.
The Trump campaign has already filed several lawsuits over a range of election issues, looking to stop the count in some areas and asking for better access to the counting process for Republican observers in others.
Whether you voted for Donald Trump or you voted for Joe Biden, everybody has a right to witness what's transpiring here.
In Pennsylvania, every vote is going to count.
For some, an agonizing wait with control of the White House and the direction of the country at stake.
As a counterpoint to those calling for an end of vote counting, the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, or NACA, mobilized its fleet of vans today for a voter protection tour. The group offered free rides to the polls for Georgia voters ahead of the election, and now they want to draw attention to ensuring that all those ballots are counted, particularly in Fulton County, with a visible presence outside some metro ballot processing locations. In the face of rumors and wrong information trying to shake voters' confidence, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger wants to reassure voters. He says that Georgia's election is safe and there are security measures taken to protect the ballots. All absentee ballot drop boxes were monitored by security cameras. On election night, the drop boxes locked at 7 p.m. to prevent illegal voting or fraud. State monitors were in the room as votes were counted in our most populous county, Fulton, and the public can observe counting in any county to maintain transparency. The state will also conduct an audit before votes are certified to reinforce confidence that the vote count is accurate. NASCAR's season finale is Sunday, and Chase Elliott's racing in hopes of snagging his first crown in the sport. We will break down his chances at Phoenix after the break. An unsubstantiated claim about thousands of DeKalb ballots being tossed is now going viral online. The tweet shared by celebrities asserts that 40,000 votes in the county needed to be counted by tomorrow or they would be disqualified. Here's Caitlin Ross.
The original tweet has been deleted, but screenshots of it are still being shared tens of thousands of times. It urges DeKalb County absentee voters to check their ballot status, alleging that 40,000 ballots are going to be thrown out by Friday if they're not corrected. Both T.I. and Kerry Washington retweeted the original tweet, which then spread it around the internet like wildfire. But is it true? In a tweet, DeKalb County Votes addressed this claim directly online, saying this is incorrect information. They explain that just 200 ballots need to be corrected in the county. Each of those voters, all 200 where there are questions, is being contacted directly by the county right now. So we can verify the claim that there are 40,000 ballots in DeKalb County about to be tossed as false. If you have questions about the status of your ballot, you can always check the Georgia My Voter page to ensure that it was received and counted.
There have already been several legal challenges related to Georgia's elections, one filed in federal court this morning concerning provisional ballots. The Coalition for Good Governance is suing the state over an issue with poll pads that wouldn't let voters check in on Election Day. The issue was mostly in Spalding County in Griffin. And voters there were given provisional ballots until the county could get everything running normally again. That lawsuit claiming there were also some isolated issues in DeKalb, Fulton, and Fayette counties. This group wants the state to disclose what caused the issue and to publish the names of voters who were given provisional ballots so they can reach out and tell the voters to take care of those ballots. This morning, a judge threw out another lawsuit from the Trump campaign and the GOP that accused a poll worker in Chatham County of throwing 53 late absentee ballots into a pile of trash, but county officials testified every ballot was properly documented and logged. The judge did not say why he decided to dismiss the lawsuit today. And the last issue making its way through federal court right now has to do with the USPS. On Election Day, a judge ordered the Postal Service to sweep its facilities across the country, including here in Atlanta, for absentee ballots that had not been delivered. But the USPS failed to meet the judge's deadline. During a hearing today, NBC reports a judge ordered the agency to do another sweep in states where ballots are still being accepted. That does not include Georgia, which had a hard 7 p.m. deadline Tuesday night for absentee ballots.
Best thing about this week, I think, has been the weather. It's just been incredible. And we've seen clouds moving in today, but that just made for one fantastic sunset over Lake Windward tonight. Dan Moser, one of our 11 Alive storm trackers. The only thing better than a beautiful sunset is one that's in reflection. That just looks like a painting, doesn't it? The water's smooth as glass. The winds were light today. So gorgeous. And over on Lake Lanier nearby, Nicole Marston taking this brilliant picture. It almost looks like the sky is on fire at sunset. Of course, the sun is going down earlier now, 5:41, so we have a little less time to get things done in the evening. We notice those clouds moving in tonight. That's what made for the spectacular sunset. We have an easterly flow, not a particularly strong wind, just kind of a light easterly flow, and that's bringing in a little bit more humidity. I think the next 24 hours we'll start to notice it a bit more, and it'll bring in a few more clouds as we head into our Friday morning and Saturday morning as well. See plenty of sunshine during the day on our Friday, so I don't think we need to worry about it being particularly gray. It'll be a nice end to the work week. Temperatures out there right now pretty pleasant. 52 in Canton, 53 in Carrollton, still 60 in Atlanta. That's the warm spot in North Georgia. Looking at 59 in Eatonton and 59 in Thomaston. So the next 12 hours we're going to see those clouds continue to move in during the overnight. So it may look a little overcast to start tomorrow, and then I think we'll start to see more sunshine during the afternoon. So on your wasometer, on that scale of 1 to 11, with 11 being a perfect day, a 10, just because we're going to be a little on the warm side and we'll see some clouds around. Otherwise, it's practically perfect in every way, right? And throughout the afternoon as well, we'll see some of that sunshine peeking in through the clouds. Low 70s for a high temperature, just a little bit warmer than it was today by a degree or two. No big warm up, but definitely on the warm side. So tomorrow I think we'll see more sunshine, then we will see clouds. We still have that northeasterly component to the wind flow, so the moisture levels will be going up a bit throughout the day. Saturday I think we'll have more cloud cover than we will on Friday, but still we should stay mostly dry throughout our Saturday, the first half of the weekend. And then we're going to be watching Ada as we head into next week. And it looks like it's a depression now. It's going to be heading towards Cuba over the weekend, strengthening to a tropical storm. Tropical storm warnings watches have been issued for the Cayman Islands here. And then it moves over Cuba, the Florida Straits, and just sits and spins here next week in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's going to bring in moisture here. Spaghetti models are in agreement with that. It's going nowhere fast, and that means a lot of heavy rain possibly here for the west coast of Florida. And we could tap into some of that moisture as well. This is Wednesday at 2:30, and we could be talking some showers and thunderstorms, a 50% chance on our Wednesday. And it looks unsettled for the rest of the week as well. This is interesting. Thursday into Friday, we have rain across us, frontal system on approach. That could enhance some thunderstorms on Friday. And look at where the system is still. This is a week from tomorrow. Maybe over South Georgia by then. So we're going to have to watch this one for the next 7 days. It's kind of like the election results, right? So we're looking at things shaping up nicely for our weekend. Just a 20% chance of showers on Sunday and into Monday, 30% chance on Tuesday. And it looks like we have, with that Ada moisture moving in, that tropical depression, Ada moisture, a 50% chance of showers and storms on Veterans Day.
Chase Elliott, who went to Kings Ridge, won a crucial race at Martinsville over the past Sunday. His win propelled him into the championship for the first time in his career. Is this the breakout season that he has needed? Maria Martin caught up with NBC analyst Kyle Petty to find out.
Joining me now, Kyle Petty. He is an NBC sports analyst talking all things NASCAR, and there is a lot to talk about, Kyle, especially when it comes to the Georgia boy, Chase Elliott, the Dawsonville native. He had a big win at Martinsville this past Sunday.
He is going to win his way into the championship four.
Not only was it a really good win for Chase because it put him into the championship four, but it was an interesting win.
They came prepared, and Chase came mentally prepared. I think that's what I was more impressed with than anything else. Never gave up, never looked back, did everything he needed to do. And I think they showed that they can contend for a championship, that they deserve to be there. I know he's won a lot of other races. I know he's done a lot of other things. But this race, to me, was a huge moment in Chase Elliott's career. And I think we'll look back on it someday and say, that's the moment he became a NASCAR Cup driver for real.
Now, the other three guys in this thing are going to be really competitive as well. What's your gut telling you when it comes to the odds of who could win this thing on Sunday?
You know what? I say this honestly. Chase moved up in my estimation.
Okay.
To be even with or close to Joey Logano. I think Joey Logano's the guy.
All right, we'll see what happens. Falcons defensive end Takk McKinley now in trouble with the organization after expressing his frustration on Twitter when he was not traded. He revealed that he also requested to be traded last year and then followed up with some clown emojis. That is never a good idea. Never a good idea. Even if you're mad, that's not a good idea. That's a sign somebody's in their 20s, right? Anyway, his clown tweets did not set very well with the interim head coach.
I think it's just immaturity, and right now it's just an immature way to act about the situation. You know, unfortunately, the trade deadline for the NFL is not as popular as the one in the NBA. Very rarely do trades happen, very rarely do things happen, and the wrong way to go about it is definitely the way Tackle's handling them down in the pout. We'll move forward, and we'll move forward swiftly, and we'll move forward accordingly, but right now, the one thing I do know is he won't be able to help us for the Denver Broncos.
In defense of Takk, I would have sent out clown emojis in my 40s, so he's way ahead of me at this point. McKinley still has a nagging groin injury, but he will not be available, as coach said, against the Broncos. All right, that is it. Back right after this.
A few high clouds drifting on in tonight, so our temperatures won't be quite as chilly as we were last night. We were down in the low to upper 40s. We'll be in the low to mid 50s overnight, low 70s tomorrow, mostly dry weekend. We'll see an increase in clouds, but we should stay mostly dry. Just a 20% chance Sunday, Monday, 30% chance Tuesday, and our best chance for showers and storms, 50% chance. That's next Wednesday on Veterans Day.
Wow, Veterans Day is coming up. We are really moving through November already. Speaking of numbers, as I make the eternal transition to politics here as we wrap things up, a last look at the latest election results. More coming your way on 11 Alive in a couple of minutes. Thanks for joining us. And the news continues all the time right in these here parts at 11alive.com.
From 11 Alive News, Up Late starts now.
Breaking news right now on Up Late, former Vice President Joe Biden narrowing President Trump's lead in Georgia. This is a nail biter. Everyone watching this around the clock. Georgia is in play.
Absolutely. And Aisha, the results just keep rolling in every few minutes. Brendan Keefe is manning the big board tonight, county by county. And Brendan, what trends are you seeing, sir?
We're seeing some fascinating trends. The numbers are changing by the moment. The big deal right now is that we just got a major update from the Secretary of State's office. Let's go to the pen and write it on the board. Okay, right now, the lead for Donald Trump, it hasn't changed since our last update on the ATL, 1,775. How many votes are left to count? That's the big question, right? Well, here we go. According to the Secretary of State, there are still 14,000, and this is just in, by the way, 097 left to count. Those are coming from a whole bunch of counties, but one of the big counties we're watching right now is going to be, let's pop over here, and then let's go to the presidential race. We are expecting a large number to come out of Clayton County by midnight. We're talking about 4,200 or so votes, that are going to be uploaded by midnight from Clayton County. And you can see that how that has already broken for Biden. In fact, this is the biggest Biden county in terms of percentage in the entire state of Georgia. The Gwinnett ballots, 4,800 of those, we don't expect tonight, probably tomorrow. Those are expected to trend like this or better for Biden. But then there are those military ballots and overseas ballots, and that could swing it back the other way. So we may see the lead change here, especially when you're looking at these numbers right now with 14,000 votes outstanding. And it is razor thin right now out of nearly 5 million votes.
Absolutely, guys. And you are on top of that, you and Alec as well. We really appreciate that. By the way, President Trump appearing in a White House briefing room today with a claim his opponents are rigging the vote counting and trying to steal the election away from him. He included Georgia in his long list of states that he says he won. John Sherrick is fact-checking that and verifying all of that for us tonight. John?
President Trump singled out Georgia as one of the states in which he says elections officials are trying to circumvent the will of the people to try to make Biden possibly win this state. Here's what we can verify.
President Trump says his opponents in toss-up states across the country have been trying to rig and steal the election from his voters. He cited irregularities during the vote processing. He mentioned the water pipe leak in Fulton County Tuesday night that interrupted the absentee vote process at State Farm Arena.
In Georgia, a pipe burst in a faraway location, totally unrelated to the location of what was happening, and they stopped counting for 4 hours. And a lot of things happened.
According to Fulton County and 11 Live's reporter on the scene, the leak came from a room directly above the vote tabulators, not from a faraway location, and that the tabulating was delayed briefly during the repairs, less than 2 hours. The president also questioned why his big lead in Georgia dwindled after Tuesday.
Likewise in Georgia, I won by a lot, with a lead of over getting close to 300,000 votes on election night in Georgia, and by the way, got whittled down.
We looked again at the vote totals as they were beginning to come in Tuesday night, and in fact, President Trump was leading in early returns by some 300,000 votes. But his lead dwindled when votes from more populous areas of historically Democrat voters were counted. Neither he nor Biden had won Georgia as of Thursday evening at the time of his remarks. The president also said that he's losing in states where he should be winning because of Democrats, including in Georgia.
The election apparatus in Georgia is run by Democrats.
Georgia's Secretary of State, who is in charge of elections, is a Republican, Brad Raffensperger, a constitutional officer elected statewide. His three predecessors going back to 2007 were Republicans. Raffensperger chairs the bipartisan State Elections Board. And local elected officials are hired by county governments that are run by a mix of Republicans and Democrats.
President Trump said again tonight that he will continue to seek relief in the courts. Says he has proof, but he did not specifically say whether he would continue to include Georgia in any litigation. Aisha.
Tonight, there are reactions about President Trump's comments from Republican lawmakers. Let's start with Congressman Jody Hice out of Georgia, tweeting tonight that Georgia's handling of the election is embarrassing. And also, Republican Senator Mitt Romney tweeted that counting every vote is at the heart of democracy. Our big story coverage continues in a few minutes, but we're going to talk to our political analysts about the impact President Trump's claims could have on the election results and legacy as commander-in-chief. Meantime, the Trump campaign held a news conference in Atlanta tonight. Congressman Doug Collins joined up with Trump Jr. With a crowd of the president's supporters. Trump Jr. actually repeated some of his father's claims about the results, but did not provide any evidence to back up his statements. And now to former Vice President Joe Biden. He addressed the nation again today, saying that patience is indeed the key here. The Democratic nominee asked Americans to just hang on tight, stressing the importance of every single vote.
Each ballot must be counted, and that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be. Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world.
Mr. Biden also said he has, quote, no doubt he will be declared the winner of the 2020 election when the counting is all finished. The former vice president also earned more votes than any presidential candidate in history. Mr. Biden reached that magical historic number tonight, surpassing President Obama's 2008 record of 69.5 million votes. President Trump is actually on track to win the second highest vote total in U.S. history.
And tonight we're going to continue our team coverage with Natisha Lance, who's live downtown right now, where Fulton County election workers have just wrapped up the process, or by processing absentee by mail ballots. Natisha?
Yeah, Ron, that's right. But first, I wanted to let you know about something that we saw when we first came out here. We've been out here since about 8 o'clock, and it shows that President Trump has some supporters in person here as well to his claims that he is making about the election. When we came out here, we saw about 20 to 30 Trump supporters who were demonstrating in front of State Farm Arena, and they had issues with the way that the vote counting process is being done. And of course, we know that those absentee ballots were being counted at State Farm Arena now over the past few days. And when it comes to those ballots, I can let you know that as of 5 today, all of the absentee ballots in Fulton County have been counted. And this really goes to the credit of those volunteer adjudication workers who worked overnight into the morning, some of them leaving at 6 o'clock this morning and then coming back at 10 o'clock in the morning to finish the job. And that job, as I mentioned, adjudicating those ballots, which requires a member of both parties, of Democrat and Republican, to look at ballots that have some issues and trying to come to some agreement about what those voters intended when they cast their ballot. There was one Democratic adjudicator I spoke to, and she said there was a common theme with some of the ballots that had those issues. Take a listen.
Most of the ballots that were reviewed were because in the jungle election, you were supposed to vote for one of the 21 candidates, and people voted for 2, 3, and 4 candidates.
And we now know that jungle election, or that jungle race, was the U.S. Senate race that now Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Raphael Warnock will have the runoff for in January. She says about 50% of the ballots that had an issue came from that particular race. So at this point, here's where we stand. Fulton County done with the absentee ballots, but there's still provisional ballots that are out there. There's about 3,000 left. But as of tomorrow, up until 5 p.m., military ballots are able to come in. And also, if someone forgot their ID or had an issue and had to fill out that provisional ballot, they have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to cure that issue. So we will be out here and waiting, and once again, waiting for the exact final vote in Fulton County, Ron.
Okay, Natisha Lance for us in downtown Atlanta. By the way, folks, no matter who prevails in the presidential race here in Georgia, there's still a strong likelihood of a recount. Now, recounts are strictly controlled by state law. You just can't do it all willy-nilly. There's a system here. You might remember the governor's race a couple of years ago. Democrat Stacey Abrams came within 55,000 votes of beating now Governor Brian Kemp, but Kemp won and there was no recount. That's because the race was ineligible for a recount. Kemp won by a margin of about 1.4%. So that was a thin margin, but not enough to trigger a recount. State law says in order to be eligible for a recount, the margin between the first and second place finisher has to be 1/2 of 1%. Right now, the gap between President Trump and Joe Biden falls into the margin eligible for a recount. Now, keep this in mind. No recount is automatic. A campaign there has to request it within 2 business days of the vote being certified. So certification is likely still days away. We're going to keep track of the latest results as those votes continue to flood into Georgia. And if you want them sent straight to your phone, just text the word RESULT to the number right there on your screen. You can also download the 11 Alive News app to get an alert as soon as the race is called in Georgia. Jeff?
I'm Jeff Hullenshire, and we are now joined by 2 of our political analysts, Dr. Andra Gillespie, the political science professor from Emory University, and Mike Hastinger, who is the Republican as well as an analyst as well for us for the past couple of nights. Dr. Gillespie, I'm struck by the fact that after the president's speech tonight, that Republican leadership has been relatively silent over the past couple of days, coming to his defense, coming to the defense of his claim that he has won the election.
Yeah, I mean, it's in part because the evidence seems scant. And then there's the optical issue of looking like you're trying to stop a first count. If we recall Bush versus Gore, that wasn't about the initial count in Florida. It was about how long you could have a protracted recount. And so in this election, the idea of accusing mail-in ballots of being fraudulent, of having been turned in late because they're being counted after Election Day, when by law, especially in states like Pennsylvania, you can't actually start counting until after the election is over, seems to me to be really problematic. And so many establishment Republican politicians are going to shy away from that because they don't want to appear to be anti-democratic with a small d.
And the path toward victory for Joe Biden right now, I mean, we are aware of the number of scenarios, but truth be told, this waiting process, is that good or bad for the country in your estimation, and the affirmation that this election has been on the up and up?
I think that it's a good process. You would rather have a correct process than a rushed process. And Vice President Biden is, of course, patient because it looks like he is poised for victory. So he's going to let the process run. If there are narrow margins, President Trump is perfectly entitled to request recounts in the states where he's allowed to do that. But it's better to have the process done correctly and be thorough about it than to do something sloppy and then, risk having the entire election thrown into doubt because of people making errors that they didn't and shouldn't have made.
Dr. Andrew Gillespie, as always, thank you for your observations tonight. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Two Georgia Senate races, and both might head for a runoff. It is already confirmed in the race between the Reverend Raphael Warnock and also Senator Kelly Loeffler. That's determined. The other race between Republican incumbent David Perdue and challenger Jon Ossoff, well, that could also be next on the list to head to a runoff. Ossoff just spoke on MSNBC.
I think that what's happening tonight demonstrates that Georgia is indeed the most competitive state in the country now. We have progressively built political power here. The state has become younger and more diverse day by day. The organizing effort led by people like Stacey Abrams to protect ballot access, and now potentially the presidency hanging in the balance.
Ossoff plans to deliver more remarks tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Atlanta. As this race heads to a runoff, our Hope Ford has been following both of the Senate races for us tonight in Georgia. She joins us live tonight with more. Hope.
Yeah, and when we hear from Ossoff tomorrow, it'll be, really one of the first times that we're hearing from him in person again since the runoff became likely. We haven't heard from Perdue yet, so it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to make remarks before or after. Now, both camps, of course, continue to maintain that they are going to win, but political experts believe that if they do go to that runoff, they definitely have a huge battle ahead of them.
There is usually a huge drop-off in the number of participants. So the real challenge for these candidates who are going to go into runoffs is, can you get your people to come back and vote for you again?
UGA political science professor Charles Bullock says runoffs struggle to get voters to come out for a second time, especially this one, which will be less than 2 weeks after Christmas. Bullock says one area you won't see campaigns struggling: attack ads.
They become just vicious. They may have been hard-hitting rounds before that, but when you get to the runoff, everything is on the table.
Perdue and Ossoff already have a history of heated exchanges, so Bullock says expect more of that. Bullock also says you'll see more money pouring into the campaign.
National political parties will be spending money, but then also so will conservative groups and liberal groups.
And we're already starting to see that at least one conservative PAC is already promising to channel $4 million to get Perdue and Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler reelected. And while it doesn't always happen, political experts say Senate incumbents tend to win runoff elections because they have name recognition. But Bullock believes since 2 seats are up for grabs and this is a high-profile race, all 4 candidates in both Senate races will have to do a lot of work to win.
Absolutely. Hope Ford for us tonight. Thank you. Straight ahead, the race to count the votes in Gwinnett County. Next, where that count stands tonight. And did you hear about this? Sharpie Gate trending on Twitter tonight. Our verified team is digging into a claim about a Sharpie marker and the vote in Arizona.
Now to the vote in Metro Atlanta. Gwinnett County wrapped up their adjudicating process of ballots earlier tonight.
And it's a lot of work. So all day, Aisha, panels were combing through 3,200 batches of those ballots. The adjudicating process happens when a ballot is marked incorrectly. So a small panel, they review the ballot to determine if the voter's intent, or if the ballot can be counted. Elections officials tell 11 Alive tonight that it only wraps up the process of adjudicating, but they have not tabulated the results just yet. It could take 3 more days to get the numbers that will be sent to the Secretary of State's office. 11 Alive is committed to help to make sure that your vote actually counts. This election, Georgia voters have cast more absentee ballots than any previous election. So there's a chance, a small chance, that some of those ballots were rejected and will not be counted. So voters have a small window to fix that up until 5 p.m. tomorrow. It's called curing your ballot or fixing your ballot. And there are a lot of reasons the ballots can be rejected. If your signature is not in the correct location on the envelope, or if you used an X instead of filling the ovals for the candidates, for example. And there are a couple of other steps voters should take to secure that absentee ballot. First, check to see if the absentee ballot was accepted or rejected. You can do this through the My Voter page on the Secretary of State's website. Now, under Georgia law, the County Board of Registrars should immediately inform you if your ballot is rejected. It is up to you to submit voter identification and an affidavit confirming the ballot submitted is actually yours. You can usually do this in person at the county election office, but check their elections website or call ahead just to make sure. So once all that is done, your ballot can be counted for the election. But remember this. You only have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to cure your ballot, and we have posted some links to help you out on our website at 11alive.com.
Taking a look at our forecast tonight, Sam, I'll tell you what, one thing that has been a breath of fresh air in all of this election week mania is the fact that the forecast has really been coming through for us. Even with those cooler overnights, we'll take it.
Yeah, and it won't be as chilly overnight tonight or into the weekend, Aisha, so that's something to look forward to. And the clouds made for a gorgeous sunset tonight. David Wentworth in Cherokee County, the pastel colors were just amazing. And that was caused because clouds moved in, and of course that ends up bending the light rays at sunset and makes for those beautiful colors. And we're seeing those easterly light winds tonight, taking our moisture levels up a bit. We expect to see our humidity go up over the weekend, and a few more clouds like this at Lake Windward. Dan Mozero capturing this incredible picture of the clouds and reflection at sunset, and Nicole Marston and Lake Lanier. Just a gorgeous sunset tonight. And as we head overnight, those clouds are going to linger a bit. I think they'll break up in the morning, so mid-50s tonight. And then during the day on our Friday, a 10 on the wasometer on that scale of 1 to 11, with 11 being a perfect day, getting into the low 70s, so a little bit warmer and above average temperatures as we head into the afternoon. So we're expecting to get up around 73 tomorrow. Great night for Friday night football games. We'll just have increasing clouds. The humidity will be up a bit, and then it'll be mostly dry until next week. So next week we start to see a game changer here with what is left of Ada. Right now, just a depression over Honduras, expected to move more to the northeast over Cuba this weekend as a tropical storm through the Florida Straits, dumping rain on the peninsula of Florida and then lingering in the Gulf, where it's just going to sit and spin for a while. So it's going to feed some moisture in here midweek. That's going to increase our rain chances on Wednesday, Veterans Day, with showers and thunderstorms. And it looks like the rain may linger Thursday into Friday as a front comes through and may enhance some of those thunderstorms come Friday. I'm talking next Friday, a week from tomorrow, and Ada could still be spinning here across southwest Georgia or southeastern Alabama. So it's going to be a slow mover and one to watch, kind of like the election has been this week. We're going to have to watch Ada as it moves ever so slowly. So a great start to the weekend. Friday, Saturday looking good. 10s on the wasometer, 20% chance on our Sunday and Monday, 30% chance on Tuesday, and then that moisture from tropical Ada moves in midweek, and we have enhanced chance for showers and storms on Veterans Day. That's Wednesday.
All right, thanks a lot, Sam. New results in the race for the White House coming into the newsroom every minute. Straight ahead, a look at the gap between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Stay with us.
Okay, let's talk about Sharpies and ballots. We've seen tons of similar posts about this. Core claim that polling places in Arizona were giving voters Sharpies to fill out their ballots, and that filling out a ballot with Sharpie would cause ink to bleed through, which in turn would make it unreadable to voting machines and invalidate those ballots. But are the claims even true? To find out, the Verify team went directly to county election officials in Arizona. According to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, the claims are false. Chairman Clint Hickman posted this letter Wednesday explaining, quote, Sharpies do not invalidate ballots. He further explains the, quote, offset columns on ballots ensure that any bleed through will not impact your vote, and that they intentionally provided Sharpies on election day because they, quote, have the fastest drying ink. So, claim false. Using a Sharpie in Arizona did not invalidate ballots.
Every night on Up Late, we verify claims making the rounds on social media. If you see something out there that needs to be verified, send us an email at verify@11alive.com.
Everybody knows this across the country. Georgia is in play. Democrats hoping to turn the state blue. Next, one last check at where the votes for president stands tonight. Brendan will give us those results.
We're now stretching to the third night of election results. Georgia's 16 electoral votes up for grabs. Brendan, I feel like you've been working that board for what probably feels like an eternity, but your work is so important with keeping us updated.
Yeah, we sure have it. We have a major update for you, and just 60 votes of a swing can make a difference. Forsyth County just reported about 1,200 votes. That actually adds 60 more votes to Donald Trump. So that swings it back now from 1775 to 1805 is now the spread, but Forsyth is pretty much done. That's all we expect from them. And so basically, the next county to report is going to be Clayton, and we're expecting 4,200 votes from Clayton County, and that's the bluest county in the state. There's only one big red county left. It's Lawrence County with 1,776 votes left, and that could be Donald Trump's last hope of keeping Biden at bay at this point with the count tonight. Ron?
Okay, so if you want updates, folks, just go to 11alive.com. We're going to stay on it 24/7. Have a great night. Stay safe.